Okay, so we start. All right, so hi again, everyone. So I'm Quek Bin. I'm staff of Singapore Association of the Visually Handicapped, or SAVH. And I am basically the IT trainer here. I teach our visually impaired people how to use smartphones and computers. So that's why I'm here today. I'm going to teach you what a quick, hopefully, quick overview of what I know. So that you will know what you need to know. So this idea is to teach you how to use computers and smartphones as someone who cannot see what's on the screen, right? So the first step to being able to train other people, which is presumably your goal, right, is first you must know how the thing works and you must know how to use the technology. So once you know how to use the technology, then you can go about teaching our visually impaired how to use the technology, right? So today's session is broadly divided into 3 segments. So first, I'll introduce to you SAVH, I'll introduce you visual impairment, I'll introduce to you how to interact with people with visual impairment. Next, I will introduce to you how to use smartphones. So smartphones, there's iPhone and there's Android phone. So I'll do some of each. Honestly, I will probably focus more on iPhones and maybe just do something quickly with Android phones. The basic theory is more or less there. Then the third segment is I'll go about teaching you how to use computers, right? So for all this, I am only focusing on the kind of technology which will enable people with such poor vision they can't really read the text on the screen. And of course, up to the point where they're totally blind, right? So there are other things which actually help people with poor vision. I won't focus on that for reasons of time constraint, and also because I myself am not very good at using that section, so it's a bit harder to teach you effectively, right? Which brings me to my next point. I'm actually visually impaired myself, so I am the IT trainer here because I use technology myself. I know what works, and that is why I'm able to teach our visually impaired. But again, the main point of why I mentioned this now is during the presentation, I won't be able to always be aware of what's on the screen. So if you notice there's something funny on the screen, which is like out of place with what I'm saying, you just feel free to let me know. I might need to seek verification, confirmation from you all on various points during my presentation. So I will also need you to unmute yourselves and talk to me, right? So as compared to nodding your head and shaking your head, I won't see that, right? So I need you to voice out any feedback to me. Then to give you some flavor of the kind of situation we might achieve in the best case scenario where we are very successful training our visually impaired, I will let you listen to what my computer is telling me as I go through the presentation, so that you know that this is sort of like the end goal. Right? So a very successful training outcome will have the client using the computers like how I might be using it. So I do have a few PowerPoint presentations and some which are not PowerPoint presentations. And yeah, so there are certain segments of my presentation where there's no slides to look at, right? So I'll just be talking off top of my head. For the iPhones, for smartphones part, I will try and share screen. If not, you might have to look through my webcam at my phone screen. And I will share screen for the computer part, right? So if you find that why is there a certain part where nothing meaningful is being displayed on the screen, that's why, right? Because I didn't prepare slides for that section. Okay, so without further ado, I will share my screen with you now.
Menus, desktop, media controls, media controls.
Okay, so
Camera, moving menus, search 5 settings.
Do you see anything on your screens?
Yeah, we see your file browser.
Oh,
Camera, menu, media controls.
Okay.
Moving menus, induction program, items, new stocks, items, new multi-select stocks, SAVH public education videos, dash, home, SAVH induction program, underline, edited, underline, PowerPoint, underline,
And do you hear something coming out from your speakers?
SAVH induction program, underline, edited, underline, PowerPoint, underline, 12, 2021, 1 of 13, SAVH induction program, underline, edited, underline, PowerPoint, underline, 12, 2021, they created goal 12 slash. DPU left there and right there, SAVH induction program.
Okay, so this is my first PowerPoint presentation introducing you to... Is it drowning out my voice?
Yeah, a bit.
Okay, so so this is my first presentation introducing you to SAVH.
SAVH induction program underline PowerPoint underline 12 2021.
Okay, so do you find the appearance funny? I set it to dark mode, so it's black background. Is that making it difficult to see what's on the screen?
No, it's very clear.
Okay.
F5. Not selected. Two visual impairments underline 17 2021.pptx 1 of 12. Title is SAVH induction program underline PowerPoint underline 12 2021. Free SPT-OMSGRP underline two visual impairments underline free 6 rail workshop underline pptx 3 of 12.
Wait.
Menu music controls. Leaving menus. SAVH induction program underline PowerPoint underline 12 2021. Items 2 multi-select list box 6 rail workshop under ATM 9DCC underline ATM 6 free SPT-OMSGR 6 rail workshop ATM 9DCC underline 10 in the dark 10 MMT 10 start PowerPoint induction program 2020 ATC underline DPC induction.pptx 10 FR induction program 2021 DPC induction.pptx 10 of 12 type Microsoft PowerPoint presentation author DPC 0 PowerPoint presentation size 48.2 MB Windows C folder view list S folder view list 2 SMRT zoom docs SAVH miscellaneous shortcuts 25 of 32 enter. File Explorer items view list box to move to an item press I induction program beta 40 enter. SAVH miscellaneous item induction PPTX 2021.11.11 1 of 23 big enter. Items view list box 2 visual impairment 1 SAVH corporate slides enter. Opening Microsoft PowerPoint opening PowerPoint. Ready 1 SAVH corporate slide. F5 1 SAVH corporate slides 2021.pptx PowerPoint.
Okay, so this is actually a slide with this is a PowerPoint with many slides, and it normally would take about 45 minutes, and I plan to do it in 10. So don't worry too much if you're seeing all the text splash through the screen without you having time to read them, because this is meant to give you a quick overview of SAVH. So don't bother too much that you can't really read the text. Main reason why I'm using this PowerPoint slide with so many slides is because there's more pictures, hopefully more entertaining to watch. Right, so
Slide 2, picture 4 image, picture 5, bullet, slide 2, picture 4 image, picture 5 image, bullet of SAVH, bullet of clients, bullet of
this
services.
is an outline of what we're going to cover
Bullet of SAVH,
about
bullet of
SAVH,
clients, bullet of services.
our clients, and what services we
Bullet
provide,
of help,
and areas where volunteers and others can help.
bullet of help. Slide 3, picture 4, slide 3, picture 4 image, picture 2 image, picture bullet founded in 1951. It was formerly known as the Singapore Association
And
for
so
the
this is our history. We were founded in 1951. We are the oldest organization in Singapore serving visually impaired.
The only national social service agency for the visually impaired.
And we will tell people we are the only one which provides a wide, comprehensive range of services to serve the visually impaired.
SAVH is a member of the National Council of Social Service.
And of course, we're affiliated with NCSS, which is the government body, National Council of Social Services, overseeing the social service sector. Right, so our constituents, if you like, Singapore citizens and PRs with visual impairment. Okay, so full range from total blindness to quite mild, or we call quite mild vision loss.
Slide those. Ready. Picture 4 image, vision, to help to promote the needs, interests, and aspirations of the visually handy.
Yeah, our motto and so on.
Mission. Slide 5 dash clients, heading level picture 3 image.
And so as of 31st March 2021, we had 4,200 over clients. Right, so infants to elderly, we have over 100 years old kind of clients.
78% are above 50 years old.
Yeah, so but most of our clients are above 50.
22% are below 50 years old. Includes people who are born by eye infection, right parent.
Right, so the causes of visual impairment are varied. I'll come to that later.
Slide 6 dash typical heading level 1 typical eye condition. Picture 2, picture 4 image.
Right, so this is some idea of what the possible eye conditions.
Slide 7, core services, vertical bar packaging, machine, vertical bar table manufacturer and supplier image. Bullet support services.
Okay, so now we'll come to what are services.
Bullet support programs. Bullet elder care services.
Right.
Picture 2 image, heading level 1 low vision clinic. Services provided.
So for example, this is the one which you all might find a bit more relevant to what you normally experience. So our low vision clinic, main function is provide eye checkups, but there is also like one of our first point of contact with new clients, right? So we get them registered through there. The other department is the social work department. Okay, so check for eye condition, check for VA and what other things you have for the state of the eyes. Refer them various visual aids. So I guess you all being medical students, I don't really need to like explain all the terminology, right? And assess them, right? Sometimes some funding we had applied for our clients require them to be certified visually impaired, so they come to this low vision clinic.
Picture 4 image, picture 7 image, picture bullet assist our clients with financial bullet help them to develop their own support system and gain independence.
Because it's social work department.
Training, job bullet counseling. Direct services. Social bullet home visits and casework.
Right. So yeah, I guess I don't have to say more.
Picture 7 image, Google bullet orientation and mobility training.
This is quite important as well, one of our key services. So if you're visually impaired to the point where you need to learn to use a cane, you'll come to this department where you get trained how to use your cane. First of all, cane training has 2 levels. One is just basically how to use your cane to detect your immediate surroundings and protect yourself from immediate surroundings. And then the next level of training is to learn routes so they can travel from point A to point B. So you do need to be taught specifically. So if you want to get from point A to point B, you have to train for point A to point B. If you want to get from point C to point D, you need another round of training for that journey. Yeah, generally that's the approach. So up to a point, there's some room for variation and improvisation, but yeah, if you're not like the terribly versatile kind, you probably need very detailed and specific training for that each specific group. And now this department also provides training to general public on how to assist visually impaired. I mentioned just now, they also do a little bit of ADL, right? Activities of daily living. So teach them how to be independent around the home. Okay, next. We have a Braille production department. Produces Braille, teaches Braille to visually impaired, but also has the option of teaching Braille to general public. So if any of you are interested to learn Braille, you can come for a fee. Right? And this department actually is combining both Braille and library. So we have a library section. So library contains two main kinds of material, Braille and audio material. So books which are converted to Braille or books which are converted to audio. So they get a professional or sometimes not quite professional reader to read the story exactly as it appears in print, but then they record into audio CDs, sometimes MP3s, and they put out for sale, right? You actually can buy off your mainstream bookstores and online stores, right? We do also provide a service whereby we get volunteers to read newspaper, Straits Times articles and distribute it to our visually impaired through Dropbox, if you are familiar with Dropbox. There's also a Chinese service where they read some Chinese articles from selected Chinese magazines, right? Not quite the Chinese paper. So that one is once a month. The Straits Times is basically every day a selection. Not everything in the Straits Times, but selected articles. So this is another key part of our association that a lot of people are interested in, the Assistive Devices Center, which sells equipment to help people with vision loss cope with the new condition or not so new condition. So it sells talking equipment, it sells canes, it also sells software, and it sells hardware. So things to make things bigger, things to read things out to you, things with Braille on it, and the software things. So not sure whether there's some pictures in there, but I guess, yeah, we won't go into too much detail, no time. We have this particular program where we teach them like activities of daily living, so vision wellness program. Yeah, so things like how to manage your clothes if you can't see, how to identify your money if you can't see, and things like that.
Slide 14, daycare center. Heading level 1 daycare center.
We have a daycare center program. Basically, each day of the week, a particular group of visually impaired come in and spend about 1 day there, have some chit chat, have some exercise, have some talks, have some food, mix around with other people, so that they have something to do, so that they're not cooped up at home all the time, right? So that's daycare center.
Slide 15, sports and wellness. Heading level 1, sports and wellness.
We do try and run some sporting activity, some music programs, so that they can take part in these as well. If not for the COVID, there'll be outings as well. So that's under this.
Picture for image. Heading level 1 music. Picture image.
Yeah, music.
Heading level 1 skills development. Picture for image. Picture heading slide 17 skills development.
Okay, so skills training. So skills training, there are 2 main parts. One which is done in-house. You sort of can consider music as a form of skills training. IT training under me is the other skills training that's done in-house. We're in the process of setting up a call center kind of thing, which will provide training. So that's that. But otherwise, the bulk of the training usually is something like massage training, which is done by external providers. And there are other ad hoc skills like how to operate complicated dishwashing equipment. And I think there's some other soft skills kind of training as well. So those are done by external providers where we link our clients to them and even bring our clients to the venue and assist them to learn during the training, because external training providers usually are not aware of how to interact with visually impaired. So we have our staff there to assist and help convey the teaching content to the visually impaired.
Heading level 1 employment. Picture 5 image.
Okay, so after training, we place them for jobs. Once again, the main groups of jobs are massage, telephone-based skills kind of jobs. Actually, if they are properly trained in computer, they can do your usual admin jobs, desk-bound jobs, where it's just emailing, writing Word documents. But yeah, awareness of this is not very high, so we're not getting a lot of offerings in that area. So mainly massage and telemarketing. Yeah, but we're trying to expand. They also do offer us packing and dishwashing and hotel service. But obviously that can usually only be done by people with at least some significant remaining vision.
Slide heading level 1 mobile massage content, please folder 10 image.
So we have what we call social enterprises. So the first of which is our massage service. So besides training them in massage skills done by external providers, we also place them for massage jobs. And we have our in-house massage service. So we will employ them, so to speak, to provide massage services. So this massage service, there's in-house, and we do also send them out. That's why we call them mobile massage team. So in groups, in teams, right, or visually impaired with a leader, all visually impaired, right? And they go out to company sites, family days, even schools, to provide massage services, right?
Picture 7 image. Bullet provision of massage services by a full SAVH venue. Social enterprise. Social enterprise.
Yeah.
Picture 7 image. Picture 2 image. Bullet patrons will be served catered meals by the visually impaired. Bullet located at SAVH.
So the other key social enterprise is dining in the dark.
Dining in the dark. Social enterprise.
Right, so general public make bookings, they come in, they will be led into totally darkened rooms, so that even you have normal full 6.6 vision, the target is you will still be able to see zero in that darkened room. And you'll be served by our visually impaired, who will be the servers, right? So these are typically totally blind to almost totally blind, typically. And there's another group of visually impaired who are usually like those with quite significant remaining vision. They will work in the kitchen, doing things like clean up. And yeah, you do get to sort of chit chat with the server. So it's a public education kind of initiative, plus of course generate income for our visually impaired.
Picture 7 image.
And for us.
Picture 2 image.
Quite bluntly.
Picture 4 bullet to visually impaired clients with bullet footmarks, spring coasters, bullet social art.
So the final social enterprise we usually pitch to people is touch arting. So yeah, we get our visually impaired to create arts and crafts, usually supported by volunteers. And we'll sell the arts and crafts, and our visually impaired will get some of the income. We do sort of run some kind of experience programs selectively, whereby general public can come in and then experience what it is like to make arts and crafts with blindfolds on, the kind of thing.
Slide heading level 1 advocacy and outreach.
So advocacy, I actually do advocacy as well, besides IT training. So interaction with external parties, discussion about things to do with improving the environment for the visually impaired. So things like the public transport infrastructure, how to improve service quality, what we term inclusive service delivery, right? How to understand how to interact with somebody with visual impairment so that you can serve them better.
Picture 6 image. Picture 7 image. Bullet public transport accessibility.
And building accessibility
Bullet
issues.
inclusive service delivery.
I talk to students, which is also basically like the kind of, this is sort of why I'm doing this with you as well, because it's public outreach, help the general public, including students, appreciate how things can be done by visually impaired and help you to help the visually impaired.
Bullet inclusive society.
So that's why I'm sort of in the picture for this.
Bullet student projects. Bullet technology and innovation.
Oh yeah, so if people have student projects, they want to design items to help visually impaired, I will also talk to them. They want to run some kind of public education campaigns, I will also talk to them.
Bullet technology and innovation.
Yeah.
Slide heading level 1 fundraising events.
Of course, we need to do fundraising.
Bullet events organized by other organizations in support of SAVH.
Yeah, so if we have fundraising events, we get our volunteers to come to help with that. Flag Day is the other perennial, right? Of course, COVID sort of puts everything in makes everything difficult. Yeah, but yeah.
Slide 24 volunteering at SAVH. Heading level picture
volunteering. So these are our pet projects which we are pushing now is gardening. I have no idea how that works, but yes, there's gardening. So if you want volunteers to help with gardening, there's that. We had another project where we are asking for volunteers to help read audiobooks the National Library has this 20,000 audiobooks, which they're asking, which they are donating to us. And so we're getting volunteers to help rip all the 20,000 books into MP3s so that we can put them in soft copy and distribute more easily. But I think, yeah, last I heard, our librarian says he has more than enough volunteers. So we'll put that on hold. And there are other ad hocs, so helping with events.
Slide 25 heading level 100 bullet donate. Bullet volunteer
Yeah,
SAVH.
so yeah, these are the how it can help.
Bullet blank. Number colon 6 number colon 61 S0119 JDBS.
And contact details.
Number colon 61 S heading level slide 27 heading level 1 connect with us. Picture to image.
Yeah, we're on social media, on website.
Picture for image. Heading level 1 email us. Send mail inquiries at send mail information at SAVH.
And yeah, all this.
Slide 29. Picture to image 2. Picture to image. Picture to image. Picture to image. Google Shift slide 30. Google Shift semicolon 100. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, it's only 30 slides. Okay, so yeah, so that's okay, still longer than I thought. Well, at least it's not that bad. Okay, so quickly we'll jump into the next section. So now that you know about SAVH, okay, now that you know about SAVH, here's helping you understand more about visual impairment. Although I'm sort of should be assuming that as medical students, you're already quite familiar with all the medical eye conditions, right? So well, here goes.
F5. Slide 1. Picture 5 image. What is visual impairment? Impairment. What is visual impairment?
So this outline, I guess.
What is visual impairment? What is visual impairment? Picture 5 image. What is visual impairment? Picture 5 image. What is visual impairment? Slide 1. Picture 5 image. What is visual impairment? What is visual impairment? Slide 2 visual impairment. Link http://www. Slide 2 visual impairment.
Definition of visual impairment, vision loss. Doesn't seem to be reading what I needed to read.
Slide 2 visual impairment. Slide 2 visual items. Slide 2 list of visual impairment is when a person has sight loss that cannot be fully corrected. List of 5 items.
Right, so do you all need to actually know this? Right, vision loss, non-correctable vision loss, so that's visual impairment.
Slide 3 low vision. Heading level 1 low vision. What's image facial recognition?
Low vision, so still can see not so well, but it's not correctable by glasses, hence you're called low vision.
Bullet vision impairment that cannot be corrected by medical intervention, surgical treatment, or conventional glasses.
Yeah.
Slide 4. What causes visual impairment? Heading level 1. What causes visual impairment? Question.
Causes, again, as medical students, I sort of assume you will understand. There's genetic causes, there's congenital causes, results of inadequate healthcare at birth, there's later in life. I know one guy who sort of lost his sight and nearly his life due to food poisoning, accidents, industrial accidents. My former boss will tell the story of how somebody threw acid in his face while he was heroically trying to save a lady. Right, so that sort of thing happens, but the majority of cases are age-related conditions like glaucoma, cataracts, and AMD, right? Age-related macular degeneration.
Common eye conditions. Common eye conditions.
So here's telling you about common eye conditions like you don't already know.
Common eye conditions. Common eye conditions. Slide 5. Picture 3 image. Common eye conditions. Common eye conditions. Screen updated.
So
Slide 5. Picture common eye conditions. Common eye conditions. Slide 6 common eye conditions. Heading level 1 common eye conditions. Picture 6 image. Macular degeneration. Bullet common eye condition number 1.
Okay. It's reading right. Macular degeneration is not on the wrong slide. Okay, so you, all of you, like, actually all of you handle ophthalmology cases in your studies.
Yeah, we have ophthalmology posting.
Yeah. Okay, so common eye conditions. This is obvious. No, not obvious. This is usually we usually think or talk about age-related macular degeneration, but I think down here the heading just says macular degeneration. Right. So the main point is the macula. Is that the correct way to use it? Okay, central vision is lost due to aging, or whatever reasons, right? So central vision. I'll come back to this thing about central vision, sight vision thing. Yeah, so central vision is required for details, for recognizing faces, for reading. So central vision affected is quite serious. You will see definitely these pictures, you want to pay attention. So they are supposed to be stylized representations of vision loss. I definitely want to emphasize it's stylized. It's not really that case that you're really going to see these things when you're visually impaired. But yeah, I'll come back to that again, I think.
Slide 7 common eye conditions. Heading level 1 common eye conditions. Picture 5 image. Diabetic retinopathy. Bullet caused by diabetes.
Right, so diabetes is the other major cause of vision loss. So bleeding of blood vessels in the eye, leading to damage to the retina and hence loss of vision.
Slide 8 common eye conditions. Heading level 1 common eye conditions. Picture image. Bullet neckline. This bullet causes tunnel vision, which is light with light.
Okay, RP. By the way, I have RP, so this is my pet topic to talk about. I always tell people how it's a little bit inaccurate. They usually represent RP as tunnel vision. So it's the flip side of what they are saying about macular degeneration, right? So tunnel vision means central vision is there, but side vision is not there, right? But I tell people my condition is not like that. Maybe more of that later. But yeah, first symptoms of RP is night blindness, then it deteriorates to loss of day vision, loss of color vision sensitivity.
Bullet only small patches of bullet marine night statement also.
Yeah.
Slide 9 common eye conditions. Heading 1 common eye conditions. Picture 5 image cataract. Bullet curves in the lens of the eye with the eye.
Cataracts, definitely almost always age-related. Clouding of the lens in the eye, right? So there is congenital cataracts. I met a few people who have congenital, so from young. But yeah, usually from young cases, the vision loss is quite mild. And of course, cataracts is actually fully treatable. So yeah, after surgery, you should regain close to normal vision, if not normal vision.
Slide 10 common eye conditions. Heading 1 common eye conditions. Picture 7 image glaucoma. Bullet is often caused by an increase.
Again, the major cause of glaucoma. So top few causes, I think glaucoma is among the top. So vision loss due to excessively high eye pressure, intraocular pressure, I think they call it. Right, so it damages the optic nerves, so leads to loss of vision. Again, I think the main issue is loss of visual field. So I think I will have a slide on that later. Again, age-related, 40 years old. Okay, so when we talk about visual impairment, most people just say, oh, can see, cannot see. Of course, it's not that black and white. So first of all, there's a range of vision loss, so from relatively mild to totally blind. Right? So next thing is visual loss has a few main key aspects. So one is the loss of clarity of vision, or VA, visual acuity, which is the one that you test when you do your reading chart, the 6.6, the 6.9, 6.45, 6.60. But the other aspect of vision loss is loss of visual field. And under visual field, you have two main aspects, central vision and side vision. So your central vision is needed for reading, for recognizing faces, for detecting detailed body language, while the side vision is required for detecting obstacles, for navigation, right? So once you frame it that way, it's really quite clear what will happen if you have each kind of vision loss, right? So if you have loss of central vision, you can't do all your reading and so on, but you might be able to walk around and look perfectly normal until people criticize you for not responding when they wave at you, or nodding their head at you, or shaking their head at you. And if it is quite possible to have very good central vision and poor side vision. So you'll be walking around with a cane, but you can see, that the clock about 20 meters away says 2:45, and people say, hey, you're faking, you're not really visually impaired. But then that's just because the central vision is practically perfect while the side vision is not there. Right, so my condition is a mix of both. I have loss of central vision as well as side vision, so I can see bits and pieces of everything, sometimes enough to read words, but I might need some help having a cane to watch out for obstacles. Right? So a very quick example of the impacts of different kinds of vision loss. Okay, so the other thing is generally poor sensitivity to light and colors, so which is where there's a need for high contrast, for stronger colors, right? Yeah, so these are a summary of vision impairment. Okay, so if you have vision loss, what can you do, right? So first you need skills to adapt new skills to do things around the house. If you can't read your labels on your medicine, you need to find some way of labeling the medicine so that you can recognize which medicine is which. If you can't see misplaced objects, then the strategy is to always put your objects in the same place, in the same part of the house all the time, where the family members usually don't help with that because they like to move things around and just leave them wherever they like. And yeah, simple common sense things like don't leave things lying on the floor if you can't see them. Again, the family members really help by leaving things around all the time, not closing doors and all those things. Right? So Yeah, new skills. So money management, like I mentioned, wardrobe management. Again, these are things which actually you can sort of use common sense to figure out. But if you're sort of like too overwhelmed by the vision loss, then we can come in and give you tips on what you can do.
Maximize remaining vision to its fullest potential graphic.
Yeah, so maximize vision to its fullest potential. If you still have some vision, you can use reading. We will give you the visual aids, the magnifiers. There's optical magnifiers, there's electronic magnifiers, and of course, there's things in your phone, there's things on the computer.
Maximize remaining vision to its fullest potential graphic. Learn new apps to helping our clients to colon graphic. Slide 13, measuring heading level 1 rehabilitation. Vision rehabilitation graphic, orientation and mobility, basic sight and technique graphic.
Yeah, so train how to use the cane if you really need to use the cane.
ADL skills training graphic.
Strictly speaking, actually, we can even teach you skills to adapt to moving around, even if you don't use a cane, if you're not comfortable using a cane, but that usually isn't our focus.
Slide 14, acquire assistive technology and devices. Heading level 1 acquire.
So assistive technology. The electronic magnifiers count as assistive technology. What you have in the AT corner in SNEC probably will fall under this category. So things to help you look at distant objects, things to help you look at small close-up objects, yeah, and the like. Read your papers so you literally read out. So there are options for all this. Of course, it's a matter of how easy it is to use and the cost.
Assistive devices graphic. Slide 15, heading level 1 learn braille. Rectangle colon rounded corners.
Yeah, and of course you can learn braille. We do a little bit of promoting of braille, right? So braille is a medium of access to information which is quite different from what like I'm doing now. You can have things read out to you, but you won't know how they are spelled. So that becomes an issue when trying to teach blind children spelling. And things which are read out to you, like even at the speed of sound, you can't go at the speed of light, right? Yeah, the chances that you will absorb everything is a bit, quite a bit lower than if you could visually inspect the text. Right? So reading braille, there are some studies which compare reading braille to visually reading text. Apparently the same parts of the brain are activated when you're doing that. So the comparison between like the pros and cons of using braille versus the alternative, which is usually sound.
Braille graphic. Braille graphic. Slide 16, accessible content. Heading level 1 accessible content. Rectangle colon rounded corners. Audiobooks, periodicals, movies.
Yeah, so if you have audiobooks, that's one way of letting you continue to access content.
Audiobooks, periodicals, movies graphic.
Yeah, and descriptive movies, right? So again, it's your commercial movies, but they have someone describing the non-verbal parts of the movie, so that someone who can't see can still enjoy the movie more than otherwise. Right? Okay, so visual impairment. Okay, this final part here, hopefully I can do in 10 minutes. There'll be no presentation. Yeah, okay, so how to interact with people with visual impairment. Okay, then I might just stop the screen share.
Upper ribbon, slideshow tab, followed by a snippet presentation, press F6 to escape. Leave menu, slide 16, accessible content, caps lock on. Caps lock off. Media controls. Off.
Okay, so how to interact with people with visual impairment. Okay, so there's this thing which somebody has been working out called the 4 A's. So when you meet someone with visual impairment and you are thinking about whether you can offer help to the person, there are 4 A's. Yeah, to try and remember in trying to help the person. So A is assess, the first A, assess the situation. Maybe you see a person with a cane walking around, you think, oh, this person needs help. Actually, not always the case, because like I was saying, right? So we have orientation and mobility training. Sometimes they actually figure things out on their own. So they may be actually quite confident of where they're going, even though they're using a cane and they're blind. So they may not need help. Right? On the other hand, if you find a visually impaired person holding a cane running full pelt at an open drain, you obviously know that person doesn't know what he or she is doing. Then you definitely want to come quickly to help that person. So that's assessment. Next is approach. Okay, the next A is approach. How do you approach a visually impaired person? You don't just start shouting at the visually impaired person, stop, stop, watch out, go straight, go straight. You actually have to let the visually impaired person know that you're talking to them, because sounds from afar, we might suspect, but we don't always assume that somebody is talking to us. So you ideally should make physical contact with a visually impaired person to let them know that you are talking to them. A sort of alternative, which we don't officially teach, but I can tell you based on common sense, is if you talk to the person, you watch the person's face. If the person turns their face towards you, you see their eyes sort of looking roughly in your direction, and you see them pause. Obviously, they have detected your voice, right? Then you sort of affirm, yes, yes, sir, I'm talking to you, or yeah. So approach, right? So make sure, pay attention when you're trying to interact with the person to make sure that you have their attention. How to make physical contact? Our official line is you're supposed to bump the back of your hand against the back of their hand, because that is the least sensitive part of the body to touch. And you're not supposed to just grab them, right? So back of the hand, tap the back of the hand, nothing very aggressive, hostile, or threatening. Right? But having said that, again, the alternative which I would suggest to you, which is really more common sense, is you can tap them on the shoulder. Usually that's okay. Don't put your hand on your shoulder, but tap the shoulder. Definitely don't put your hand on your shoulder if you're a guy and she's a lady, right? But you know, that's the common sense thing, right? Again, if you're cognizant of the fact that visual impairment comes in degrees, right? So if you sort of get some sense that this person has partial vision, you could do something like wave and see whether the person reacts to your wave. But yeah, okay, I'm not going to say that as a recommended action. So play by ear, right? So how to approach? I would say main point of approach is make sure you get their attention. So the first recommended way is physical contact. But if you can tell that they're responding to you and you try some polite way of affirming to them that they have gotten that they are responding to you as you want them to, that's fine as well, right? So approach. Next, ask. When you want to help person, you want to ask the person first. Don't just assume you know what help they need. So you should first of all ask, do you need help? And if they say no, you really respect their wish and don't try to force your help on them. If they say yes, then you can proceed to the next step, actually assisting them. Right? So that's a very important thing we should always want to emphasize, because we have encountered lots of members of the general public imposing their help on us. Of course, we understand fully with good intentions, but that is not necessarily appropriate. Okay. Then finally comes the thing which everybody focus on, which has a lot of details, which sort of save you the pain of trying to memorize. Right. So assist. The fourth A is assist. So assist through communication with the visually impaired person. Ask them how they would like to be helped. Discuss more with them how they would like to be helped. So under this one is when you want, the main way of helping a visually impaired person that is usually needed is they want to be brought to a particular place. So when you want to bring them to a particular place, you should lead them there by letting them hold on to your elbow and not grab them and pull them along. And definitely don't grab their cane and pull their cane along. That is a taboo. So the cane to a visually impaired person is their eyes when it touches the ground. So if you pull the cane until the cane is off the ground, you're basically robbing them of their eyesight. So that is definitely no. Right. So you offer them your elbow. You inform them, oh, would you like to take my elbow? My elbow is on your left. If you find that they might be a bit lost, right? Would you like to hold my elbow with your left hand or your right hand? So, obviously, if they want to hold your elbow with your left hand, you can't stand on your right? So you go to the other side. So again, there's sometimes a lot of common sense, which, okay, let's be kind. You just don't realize when you're helping a visually impaired person for the first time. Okay, so offer them your elbow. You might offer them your shoulder as an alternative. Some people may prefer that. And some people relatively good vision may not really want to hold on to you. But that will then be fine. So once again, you do have to exercise judgment. So if they prefer to just follow you, then you just walk a bit slowly and keep an eye on them to make sure they're following you. Right? So guide a visually impaired person. And as you walk with them, as you guide them, you describe the environment to them. Key points to note is if you're going through a narrow space, so we will collapse back to the default scenario where we assume that they're holding on to your elbow. So if you're walking through a narrow space, if you sort of angle your body sideways so that your elbow is behind you, the visually impaired person will take their reference position from your elbow. So if you move your elbow behind you, they will naturally fall in line so that you're now single line when you're walking through a narrow space. When you're going up and down steps, you should inform them that you're going up or down steps. You can let them know like shallow step, deep step, if there really is an unusually deep or shallow step. And you can inform them if steps going up, going down. If there's a railing, you can ask them, do you want to hold the railing? So if yes, you can help guide their hand to the railing with the permission. So general point. Okay, so I think that is usually the main. Okay, one more point is guiding them to a seat. Okay lah, maybe one more point because you'll be teaching them, right? So there's a final point after that where we're actually talking about how to guide them to use the technology. Okay, when guiding them to a seat, you lead them to the seat, inform them that there's a seat there, offer to guide their hand to the seat, and then do so if they say okay. If not, you at least inform them that the seat is right in front of them, which direction the seat is facing, so that it's easier for them to seat themselves. So the main point is let them know that seat there, offer to guide them to the seat, but let them seat themselves, right? So the other no we always tell people is don't push them into the seat. Okay, so now really the final, hopefully, right? So how to help them learn that technology? Same thing already. So basically the ideas which I mentioned earlier is there. Right? So you describe the screen to the visually impaired person. So I tell them, oh, like for example, this is your iPhone screen. It's showing you what icon. If you want to check your battery level, you should, it is at the top right-hand corner, the very edge of the screen. And you can move your finger there. If you're okay, I can bring your finger there. I can hold your finger and move your finger to the pad. So communicate with them. Make sure they're comfortable before you do anything to them. But you do need to do something to them, especially if they're new to the technology. So I always say, when you're teaching a visually impaired person, you do sort of literally need to hold their hands. So do that. But of course, not always hold their hands by the wrist. It's usually more like hold their fingers and move their fingers to the point they need to go. So communicate with them, make sure they're comfortable before you do it. Describe the what's in front of them, and tell them what you plan to do to help them do what they want to do. Let me check. Okay, I think I did manage to do that in 10 minutes. I'll quickly give you. We have put up a YouTube video on how to assist the visually impaired to travel around. I will show you the YouTube video and I'll play a little bit for you, and then the rest I'll ask you to go back and watch yourself. Right? So it should be easy to find. So go to YouTube. Right? In the search phrase, you can type SAVH. SAVH public education video. Oh, wait, sorry. I forgot, I didn't share screen.
Desktop. ZP toolbar. Parent double media controls. Escape. SAVH public education videos 2018 -2 personal /Mike. Windows 0.
So yeah, like I was saying, you go to YouTube, you search SAVH public education video, and you will get this one.
Use virtual PC cursor on. Use virtual PC space.
If they accept, help them look out for the bus and flag it down.
Alert space exit full screen.
Offer them your
SAVH
elbow
public education video
and
send
lead
the
them
option
to the
maybe
bus
not
doors. Alert them of the bus step and guide their hand to the railing. Do not walk alongside each other in narrow spaces. Instead, inform them of the narrow space ahead and move your arm behind your back. It is better to seat them as close to the bus captain as possible so they can be alerted when reaching their stop.
Space. Escape, escape.
So that's about all I'm going to show you. So just note that this is when you hear the video with funky music, that's the correct video. Watch the video. I had to say you don't want to take everything it says there literally. Like I actually do have opinions about whether you have to always seat a visually impaired person just behind the bus driver. So I suggest you take reference on what I say, right? The main point is talk to the visually impaired person, find what is comfortable with them, then assist them accordingly. So if you bring them up the bus, in case you're in that scenario, since we're going to help you in a scenario, you're going to be in a scenario where at SVH. But anyway, so if you meet some visually impaired person out on the streets and you're guiding up the bus, you say, oh, I sit here behind the bus driver, can? If they say yes, fine. If they say, oh, no, I prefer to sit there, I recommend you use that to override what the video is talking about. Okay, so yeah, watch the YouTube. You can use that to refresh your memory on how to guide a visually impaired person to move around, because I do anticipate you should at least need to do that when you're helping our visually impaired, guide them to move around. And do's and don'ts. Don't just walk off without telling them you're going off, that kind of thing. But I think that's not mentioned in the video. Well, whatever. So
Media controls.
okay. I'm done for my first segment. Let's take a 5-minute break, and after that, continue to the meat of the presentation. All right.
Sure.
Okay, we're all back. Hello, testing.
Yep.
Okay, we're all back. Right, so let me test one more thing. Vishnu, can you help me see? Is there? I'm trying to share my screen from my phone, but it's asking me to enter a sharing key. Is there a sharing key somewhere on the screen?
Enter a sharing team, is it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't done this kind of thing before. All right, well, just see what else.
Maybe you can make it a co-host. Currently, it's not a co-host.
Okay.
Because normally the co-host and host can be the ones that share.
Not that one. This one is still currently signed to my same account on iPhone.
This meeting is being recorded by the host or partner. Account owner. Link. Workbench on is link. Stick co-host. Stick co-host. Button. Reclaim host. Button. Workbench on is currently host. Reclaiming host name is reclaim host. Stick co-host. Button. This meeting is being recorded by the host or partner. Account owner. Can also request a leave meeting. Got it. Button. Audio now muted. Stick co-host, please join audio. Wi-Fi cellular data. Button. Stick co-host, please join audio. Wi-Fi cellular data. Button. Wi-Fi cellular data. Button. You are using the greeting button. Leave. Button. This meeting is being recorded by the host or partner. Audio now muted.
Oops. Let me try again. That's better.
Switch camera button. Display my video. Displaying quick on my video. Displaying quick on my video. Displaying quick on video. Active. Switch camera. Active speaker video. Switch camera. Button. You are using enhanced encrypt zoom. Button. Meeting information. Leave. Button. This meeting is being recorded. Join audio. Button. Stop my video. Button. Check content. Stop my video. Button. Video now stopped. Check content. Take hard disks. Check content. Button. Photos. iCloud Drive. Dropbox. Microsoft OneDrive. Microsoft SharePoint. Google Drive. Docs. Website URL. Bookmark. Cancel. Button. Cancel. Book. Website hidden screen. Zoom. Button. Screen broadcast. Edit. Actions available. Everything on your screen, including the screen broadcast. Edit. Act selected. Zoom. Button. Stop broadcast. Button. 3. Stop broadcast. 2. 1.
Okay. You can see what's on my phone screen now.
Yeah, I can see.
All right. Sorry for the other screw up. Okay. Right. Okay, so this is the next segment. I will show you how to use a smartphone with what we call a screen reader, right? So I guess quickly to give you an overview of assistive technology. So assistive technology, right? So it's technology which helps people with special needs, right? So I will focus on this particular kind of assistive technology called, wait, are we recording?
Yeah, recording still.
So we are using this form of assistive technology called screen readers. So as the name suggests, the screen reader reads the screen to the user. And this particular segment, we're talking about screen readers for smartphones, and meaning iPhones and Android phones. So the idea is screen readers are meant to help people who can't see the text on the screen or have a lot of trouble reading the text on the screen. Okay, so once you have a smartphone with a screen reader turned on, the way the screen works will change, because obviously you want to help a person who can't see know what is on the screen without activating the screen, right? And if you just touch the screen and it opens wherever you touch, that's not going to work, right? So the screen will work differently. So you need to learn how to operate the screen using a screen reader. And this involves what we call gestures. So not that gestures don't exist for people who don't use screen readers, but yeah, the idea is, so gestures, you move your finger, could be 1 finger, 2 finger or more, across the screen, around the screen in various directions, in the various patterns. It's not moving across the screen. Sometimes it's tapping the screen in particular ways. And depending on what you do, you're basically telling the screen reader to read particular content or perform certain actions. Right, so what you have now is an iPhone with, okay, speaking of iPhones, so iPhones only have one kind of screen reader called voice over. It is built into the iPhone. It is pre-installed, and you can't even uninstall it, right? So the other thing, again, before talking about iPhones, is all smartphones have this section in their settings called accessibility. So it's a matter of how to find it. In iPhones, it's very straightforward. Open the settings, scroll down, you'll get accessibility. Android phones not so straightforward because there's a wide variation in their firmware and all that. Yeah, but the main point is look for something called accessibility. So accessibility contains settings for people with various kinds of disabilities or conditions, of course, including visually impaired. Right. So if you go to your,
is your phone moving? Because we don't see anything other than your screen.
I'm not doing to my phone yet.
Oh,
So are
you're
you
not doing
seeing?
the phone.
Do you see that? Do you see? You are sharing a screen.
Yeah, we only see that. Yeah.
Okay, so how about this?
Yeah, now we can see your main page.
But can you also see my phone on my web camera?
Yeah, I can see both.
Okay, so I need to do this later on to show you how it works in case you all haven't really figured it out. Okay, so anyway, I'll continue with my preliminary comments. So in all smartphones, there's a section called accessibility in the settings, right? So if you go inside this accessibility setting, there will be a section on vision or visually impaired or things to help people with difficulty seeing, right? So under there, you'll get your screen readers. So you'll see voiceover for iPhones. There is also another thing to take note of called the accessibility shortcut. So once you go into accessibility in your phone settings, you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's this option called accessibility shortcut. So what the accessibility shortcut does is it allows you to turn on and off whatever feature you have selected so for the case of the newer iPhones, by pressing the home button, the power button quickly 3 times. If you're using the old iPhones with a physical or not so physical home button, if you quickly press the home button 3 times, you will turn on and off whatever you select. So let me see. Settings, accessibility, back button. Right, so this is accessibility settings for my phone. Voiceover speaks letters on the screen. Double tap timeout. 0 points less. Button. Caption banner. Off. Large cursor. On. Navigator notice. Always see notifications. Accessibility. Back button. Okay, sorry. Accessibility shortcut. Zoom. Button. General. Okay, so zoom. Button. You will see a little cursor around this thing at the bottom right. Accessibility shortcut. You see the cursor, right? So that is what I have selected for my shortcut. Right. So I go in. You can hear the phone reading something, right? Right. So it says triple click the side button 4. You can hear through my phone, my computer's microphone, right? What it's saying. Yeah. Right. So side button. So this is what is called a side button, right? Otherwise known as the power button. Right. So I have selected in this case. In this case, I selected zoom. But anyway, for the sake of demonstration, I'll unselect that. Okay, so now I have switched so that I can use the. Okay, whatever. I have now selected. So basically, it's like a sneak preview of. This is a sneak preview of what I'm supposed to know how to do it. Yeah. So, so now that I have set the accessibility shortcut for voiceover. Hey, what happened?
I think you might have clicked stop share by mistake.
So it's not sharing now, is it?
Yeah, not sharing.
All right. So. You're seeing my screen still?
Yeah, we can see you are sharing screen and now your home page.
I think there's a bug with this thing whereby the speaker has just been turned off. Okay, so hopefully you can still hear something.
Yeah, can hear from your main one.
As in, you can hear my phone talking.
From your main screen, not from your phone screen.
Okay, that's interesting. So you can actually hear what's saying now.
Like from your screen, like that. It's
All
like
right.
a small
All right.
voice.
So now now that I have selected the accessibility shortcut to be voiceover, so this is the side button, right? You can see my side button, right? It's on the web camera.
Yeah.
So if I do this, so now the voice is on, so I can operate the screen the normal way. And when I need it again, right? So this is useful if you're working with someone who's exposed to voiceover for the first time. They can be very uncomfortable or not used to the way it works. So you want to give them a lifesaver, especially if they're with family members, because the family members will panic even more than they do when they find the phone talking to them and they can't just activate something by touching it. So you need to set a shortcut so that they can turn it off whenever they don't need it or whenever they want it. Of course, with iPhone, there's this other feature where you can use Siri actually. So the great thing about how iPhones have designed is you can use Siri to turn this on and off. So if you know it's called voiceover, you can say, hey Siri, turn off voiceover. And it's not listening to me. Hey Siri. Okay, so maybe the screen share is interfering with how it works. Right, so yeah, so the idea is you can say, hey Siri, turn on voiceover, and you turn it on. You say, hey Siri, turn off voiceover, you'll turn it off. So as long as you have Siri set up for the iPhone, you have another lifeline for your visually impaired and your family members who may not really are not quite ready to use this full time. Of course, the flip side is if they are very bad at controlling what they say, and they don't remember what is voiceover, or they don't remember the word voiceover, or they'll say all kinds of other funny words. Then that will be an issue lah. So which is why I usually would recommend the most traditional mechanical old-fashioned way, just in some sense of doing things, right? So that's a shortcut. Okay, so yeah, so how to use voiceover, basically you already watched me do this. So back again to my camera. The first way of using voiceover is you just touch anywhere on the screen, right? So I touch the music icon, it says music. I touch App Store, it says App Store, and it also reads out the batch, right? So how many items available? If I touch up here, 1020. If I touch here, 61% battery power, right? So yeah, so if that's the first thing, huh? So if you know where to touch, you just touch. Or if you don't know where to touch, you just touch anyhow and then you read everything. Right? The other way of using voiceover is you can put your finger on the screen. Okay, you can put your finger on the screen and then without breaking contact with the screen, okay, so yeah, so as you move your finger along the screen, once it moves to something new, it will read the new item to you. This is as opposed to touch, lift your finger and touch again, because sometimes when you do a touch, lift, touch, you may accidentally skip over something in the middle. So if you move continuously from one point to another, everything in the middle will get read out. Again, this is still not a foolproof way of doing things, but it's better than the touch, lift, touch method. Right, so when you move your finger around the screen without breaking contact, there's a terminology for this called explore by touch, which is actually a terminology from the Android side. So iPhone never really used that terminology, but yeah, for ease of talking about this sort of things, we'll cross-fertilize the terminology. Okay, so that's the next basic one. Third basic one. So if you are feeling around with explore by touch and you still cannot find, it is still possible because you can explore by touch, but you just keep going off at the wrong angle in 2 dimensions from where you really want to. So the third way of using the thing is called flicking or swiping. So for this, you don't need to bother which part of the screen you touch, as long as you do this. So you should be able to see that as that outline along the icon, right? So regardless of whichever part of the screen that I'm doing my swipe gesture on, the highlight always just moves to the next one. And if I do the opposite direction, it will go the opposite way, right? So this is the most thorough way of exploring the screen, because you don't need to make sure you cover the right part of the screen. As long as you keep doing this, you can read everything from the first item to the last item on the screen. But it doesn't actually go to this top line here with all the signal strength and battery level. So that is a little bit of a strange design, but yeah, that's how it works. Okay, so when you teach a visually impaired person, you must teach them these basic things. First, touch. If you know where to touch, touch. Because that's the fastest, right? Assuming your touch is accurate, that's the fastest way to get to where you want to go, if you already know where it is. So next, if your aiming is no good, you always just aim a bit off, right? Then you follow up with the next basic movement, which is the explore by touch thing. Like, don't break contact with the screen and just continue to move your finger around. I usually describe this to them as you feel the screen with one finger until it reads out the item you want. So if this also doesn't work, you go on to the next level basic movement, which is the flick. Because in all likelihood, even if the aiming is no good, they have probably landed somewhere quite close to where they want to go. So they can just flick a bit left or right. If unfortunately they just touch one line too low, then they'll flick a lot more times, but it's still going to be faster than forever not being able to touch where they want to touch, right? So these are basics which you must teach them how to use. So to explore, right? So explore one screen. Next basic thing is, okay, so like I was already mentioning earlier on, right? So best is you teach them which part of screen to touch, and you could help them by moving the icons around to strategic places. Like for example, the phone app, right? The phone app is always at the bottom left-hand corner of phones, as far as I can remember. If not, you can drag the icon there for them, right? So you can turn on voiceover and then drag it. You can do it with voiceover on, but no need to go into that right now, right? So whatever works is most efficient for you at your current level, right? So turn on the voiceover, do whatever you need to do to set up the screen, set up the Wi-Fi, set up mail account even, then turn on voiceover and teach you how to use with voiceover. So that's my recommendation when trying to help someone learn the phone, right? You don't need to keep voiceover on to do all the setup. Right? Do whatever is most efficient to you. Then when they need to learn how to use it, then you turn on voiceover. Right? Makes things easier for everybody. Okay, so once you have located the icon they need, right, the next basic gesture, which I hope you already figured out, right? So it's the double tap, right? So given that you touch an icon and it just won't open up, because the touch is only meant to read the thing to you, right? So you need another gesture to activate the icon. So that's double tap. So double tap, again, you don't need to know which part of the icon, which part of the screen your icon is. Okay, so let me look for something safe. Right, so yeah, so the highlight is on the App Store, but my finger is obviously nowhere near the App Store, or at least I don't think so. So what happens is you double tap. So again, no need to know where is the App Store, right? Like I told you, I have no idea where it is right now. So anywhere on the screen, quickly tap 2 times with one finger. Right, so it is important you need a certain kind of speed. Once again, you actually can explore in the accessibility settings section. There is actually an option for you to slow down the speed at which you must double tap for the gesture to be recognized as a double tap. Right, so I think you can solve. Okay, by default, if I'm not wrong, is 0.2 seconds. Right, between the two taps, you can't have a pause of longer than 0.2 or 0.25. But you can actually extend this duration to 0.5 seconds, if I'm not wrong. Right? So it might sound very little, but 0.5 seconds is really significantly long enough that a lot more people can do the double tap properly. So a common challenge for visually impaired people, especially the elders, is they just cannot tap fast enough, right? Or they'll end up like tapping 3 times when you ask them to tap 2 times. Yeah, but the idea is that because they're panicking, they're trying to do it very fast. So if you slow it down so that they don't need to tap so fast, it'll be easier to perform the gestures. So if it's easier to perform the gestures, they can perform, they'll pick it up easily, they'll enjoy the experience and all that, right? Okay, so double tap, right? So what happens if you want exit, right? So if you have a phone with the home button, obviously just press the home button, just like you always do. If for newer iPhones, you swipe up from the bottom of the screen with 1 finger, right? So it's still more or less that when you have voice over running, except that you do it a little bit slower. You still have to somehow detect the bottom of the screen and 1 finger go up. And now we're out, right? There is this other thing called the app switcher. So you want to look at all your running apps, right? So again, from the bottom, you slide up, but more, right? So yeah, so again, if you get out. Okay, so that's the basic gesture. Okay, if you want to look at the notifications, right? For newer phones again, right? Oops. Let me see. Okay, so normally if I slide down from the top screen with 1 finger, it should open up the notification, which is probably like how you all who are already using your iPhones and don't use voiceover are already doing it. For some reason, it's not working today. But fortunately, there's another way of doing it, which is the method that already existed since when there was a home button, but it doesn't involve the home button. Instead, slide down 3 fingers. Oh, sorry. Okay, so find the, okay, first of all, you must be in the notification, but must be in the, what we call the status bar, that thin thing which you can't swipe to. So you must touch somewhere at the very top until you reach something from that line of items in the status bar, then you slide down 3 fingers. Like so you can see, 3 fingers slide down. Then you can slide. Okay, so you see me, then it's the basic stuff, right? So come out. Okay, there is a thing called the control center. I can never remember how people without voiceover open control center. But for when it's supposed to behave, so if you slide down from the top of the screen a little bit, that's the control center. Let me see whether it's still not working. Yeah, so it's not working. Or it could be because the posture is a bit odd for me. Okay. Yeah, so it's a bit hard to do when it's not facing me. So which is the interesting thing, you can be totally blind, but it's still ideally easier to do things when your screen is facing you. Right? So if you slide down a little bit, that's the control center. If you slide down more, that's the notification area. But having said that, the other way is, again, you must find your way to the status bar. Let me see. Okay, and then slide up with 3 fingers. Okay, as opposed to slide down, right? So if you touch the status bar, slide down with 3 fingers will open the notification area. Slide up with 3 fingers will open the control center. Then once again, it's the basic gesture. Right? So you hear Bluetooth, you want to turn it off, just double tap. Right? So hopefully this is clear enough to you now that you can just do anything with just the basic gestures. So why I spend so much time going through these basic few things, right? Fastest way, touch exactly where you want to go. If you miss it a little bit, just move your finger, jiggle a little bit back and forth until you find it. Or you can use swipe left or right. So swipe from left to right is next item. Swipe from right to left is previous item. And it always move linearly until it reaches the end of the row and it automatically go to the next item. Right? So that's the general principle. If you want to do things like exit an app, slide up from the bottom of the screen with one finger, slide up a little bit to get out of the app, slide up more to enter the list of running apps, which they call the app switcher. If you want to go to the notification, first you must place your finger at the top of the screen, or preferably the center, and you slide your finger down, again one finger, slide a little bit is the control center, slide more is the notification center. Alternative, if you're using, alternative to that is touch somewhere in the status bar, slide up with 3 fingers to go to control center, slide down with 3 fingers to open the notification center. Right, so I passed Deborah a list of commands, right? So including this iPhone, gestures for iPhone with voiceover. I assume she has already passed them to all of you. So what I'm saying is still more or less what's already in that document, right? So if you're using an older iPhone, to get out of the app, you press the home button. To go into the app switcher, you press the home button twice quickly, right? Speaking of which, you can actually also configure how fast you press your home button. So the 2 times home button or 3 times home button, right? You can slow it down so it's easier to press. Similar concept to how it's sometimes challenging for people to double tap, right? So you can slow down the speed. I think that's also under accessibility settings. Okay, so now I've done all the basic stuff. 10:30. That is already quite a lot of time. So I'll quickly do a quick example. Hopefully quick example. So first thing I always teach them is how to open the phone app. Right? So from here, you can just focus on the screen sharing. Because the gestures thing, I presume I've already shown you how the gestures work. So you focus on the screen. So I'll just demonstrate quickly using gestures. So open the phone. The first thing I'll
sharing
teach
has stopped, by the way.
Oh no, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, since when did it stop?
Since when you start showing the notifications, then since you're doing gestures, I decided to just spotlight you. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, maybe one more thing. So the list of running app, the app switcher. Once the app switcher brings up, you swipe left or right with one finger to go through the apps to choose which one you close. Then you slide up with 3 fingers to close that particular app, right? So that's one thing I mentioned to you, right? That one, yeah, you can't do it with one finger for the way which probably you all usually use, right? Okay, so I'll quickly show you 2 or 3 key tasks, right? So first, of course, is make the phone call. So like I was saying, right, phone usually put at the bottom left. So ask them to feel the bottom left corner of the screen to get to the phone. They might announce this thing called dock because that's what the bottom line of icons is called. So you do want to remind your visually impaired to be a bit more patient, listen to what it says, and wait for it to say finish before concluding that they're not there. Because they say dock, then they pause a while before they say phone. So once you hear phone, very good, you can double tap. If not, you can sort of jiggle around or swipe left or right until you find what you want, right? So I'll double tap now. So when you open your phone, there'll be different sections. You are sure that you have to explain to them that when you open your phone, there are already 5 different sections. And then there's a section which you're at right now, right? And you can check which one from touching the bottom row of the screen. So once you touch the bottom, it'll say one item. You can slide back and forth. So it has said selected keypad. So this shows you that you're in your keypad section. You might spend some time explaining to them what is keypad, what's contact, what's recent. Yeah, so I always start with the keypad because this is the safest place to practice and most crucial. So once they know the keypad already, then I'll go on to showing them how to use the contact. Right, so same thing, explain how to use keypad. Ask them to visualize that the screen contains all the 9 numbers in the very standard layout on the phone, and ask them to imagine which part of the screen will contain the number. So once they touch a number, right, then they will know where is the where are the other numbers. So if you randomly touch a part of the screen and it says 3, but you're looking for 5, then you know that you must go down, then left. So right now I'm doing explore by touch. Okay, so that's the way to explain to them. You can let them do a touch. Okay, if it's the wrong number, don't panic, just touch again and touch a different part of the screen. And remind them that this is the familiar arrangement, so it shouldn't be like cannot find one. Sometimes they need to be reassured that you see you're doing this and you're not looking at the screen at all, so you don't need to be able to see, because a lot of them keep on panicking about, oh, I cannot see it, how can I do anything, without even trying it out. And they panic to the point where even you're doing it right before their faces, they're still not listening to the phone. So you do sometimes need to emphasize to them, listen to your phone, see it's telling you this, that kind of thing, right? So once you find what you want, so like for example, you have a 6, right? Yeah, so speaking of which, you can still ask them to swipe. There are some people who are better at swiping than they're touching. Right? So you swipe until you hear 6, then double tap. So they can do that. There's actually a different typing mode which you can configure. I guess I'll mention it here because that's how my phone is currently fit. I'm sure all of you will also find that this is very tedious to do. And definitely there will be visual impaired who complain that it's very tedious to do. So there is actually different typing modes which you can set for your voiceover. So I already have mine set to this thing called touch typing. So when you have touch typing, instead of touch wherever you want and double tap, you move your finger along the screen. Right? So right now I'm explore by touch method. Right? No contact, no breaking contact with the screen. So once you get to the number you want, lift your finger and the number comes out. So this is faster if their finger movements are reliable. But if they're the kind where they're very kanchong, a little bit they'll lift your finger, then they'll start typing all kinds of numbers out which they don't intend to. So it really is a trade-off. So I usually would recommend basics. Teach them the touch and then double tap method first. If you find that it's really no good, then you can try the touch typing method. Right? The other approach I take is, okay, so I teach them the touch and then double tap. Then once they reach a certain level of competency, I will introduce to them the idea of touch typing. And if their motor skills are good enough, they will benefit from, you can sort of say, upgrading to this touch typing method, improve their their typing speed. Right? And then, yeah, delete, you have to teach them, oh, your delete button is below the 9 and below the hex. Right? So describe to them, and like I was saying earlier, right? The way to communicate and helping a visually impaired person is to describe to them where is the thing. And if necessary, you must hold their fingers and shift your fingers down the screen until they find the delete. Yeah. Right. So right now my keyboard is set so that it's touch typing. So even when I'm on the delete button, if I lift my finger, it delete. Right. But the call button always needs double tapping. So you want to teach them, once you have the number, you can ask them to inspect what they have typed, right? Teach them that the panel above the 1, 2, 3 shows you the number that typed. Okay, so yeah, so you can even basically I'll give them visual cues. Once I have reasonable confidence in their ability to execute gestures and move your fingers along. So I say higher, higher, right? To ask them to move up to the panel, lower, lower, to look for something that's below. Move to the right, move to the left. Unfortunately, there are people who don't know what's left or what's right. Then you have to physically hold their fingers and move them there. Right? Yeah, so the gist of teaching them this sort of things, right? So call will always need double tap. There's a shortcut for answering and ending calls. Again, if you look at that list, which Deborah should have shared with you, 2-finger double tap, right? So far I only teach you all the things which are 1 finger, except for the 3-finger one. Right? But actually there are other finger gestures and taps. So very key is the 2-finger double tap. Because when you have somebody calling you and the phone is ringing, it'll be so noisy, you can hardly listen to your voiceover tell you where is your answer call and decline call. And when you're trying to end call, if you spend half the time trying to find the end call button, the other side will hang out. Right? So 2-finger double tap is a gesture you can perform, totally ignore whatever's on the screen, and it will hang out the call or answer the call. Right? If it's an income call, you answer. If you're in the middle of a call, it will end. Okay, so once you have that, yeah, so now we can go on to the next skill. which is involving typing. So I sometimes introduce this by teach them how to save the contact. Again, you want to be careful if their motor skills are so bad, they can't really type and swipe properly. Teaching them to type is really just confusing them more. So you do need to assess, remember. So assess is not just about before you decide to help. Or you can sort of frame it as before you decide to help, because you're assessing whether they're ready to be helped for the next task, right? So if you judge that they have cognitive skills, they have motor skills, they're ready to go on to the next section, you can teach them contact. Right? So once again, teach them, feel the bottom, where's the contact, tell them which layout, guide them to move their fingers if necessary, and double tap. If they are no good at tapping, you might ask them to practice tapping on your palm, where nothing will happen if you tap wrong. Again, that list of iPhone gestures, there's a mode called help mode, or the input help mode, or whatever. So if you double tap the screen with 4 fingers, you enter this help mode. Then they can do whatever they like on the screen and nothing will happen. They just read the screen that you need. Okay? Except unless they accidentally double tap with 4 fingers. So that's another way to help them practice the gestures. So you find that they just can't perform the gestures properly, you could let them practice the gestures on your finger or on your palm until you're reasonably confident that they can do it. Then ask them to try again on the phone. Or you can enter the help mode on the phone by double tapping the screen with 4 fingers. Then ask them to practice your gestures on the screen until the screen always reports the correct gesture to them. So if I demonstrate now, 4-finger double tap. Right, so you heard that, right? What it says. So now if I tap the screen once with 1 finger, it says touch each item. 1-finger double tap, activate. Right? So that's how you can check that they are reading correctly. Right? The screen share is still working, right? You're still hearing all the audio from the phone, right? Then you will get out of it, 4-finger double tap. Okay, so I quickly go on to this one because I think it's quite important to show you the typing mode. So again, add a contact. Teach them bottom top right corner is add button, double tap. And then the keyboard is on. Okay, there's a rotor gesture. Imagine there's a circle on the screen and you're turning the circle with, okay, this one maybe need to show you. So index finger and thumb. You can see my screen and my fingers, right? So turn the screen. As you do this. Okay, so by the way, typing mode, right? So what the gesture does is it changes what happens when you swap one finger up and down. This is not related to the up and down from the bottom and top of the screen, right? So, hey, did I exit again?
Yeah, the screen share stopped.
Okay, I think my phone just ran out of battery. Oh, wait, it crashed. Okay. Okay, right. So, okay, so rotor gesture. Okay, so standard typing. So this is the one where now if I touch, nothing happens. I had to read the keys. And when you want, double tap. Right, safer because they won't be panicking because they're accidentally setting off all kinds of keys. Right, but once they get good at double tapping, once they get good at explore by touch, you can let them try the touch typing method, which is faster, but yeah, not suitable for everybody. Okay, so you have the keyboard on the screen, you let them explore. You can actually swipe your fingers through the whole keyboard. You can see the cursor moving, right? Through all the letters. Then, so if they're really that bad at explore by touch, I definitely have seen people who do that. Swipe all the way to what they want, then slide to the next one and double tap. If they're happy to do that, okay, yeah, no reason to insist that they don't do it, right? Because at the end of the day, what's important is they can get the job done. But of course, you know that's not the optimal. Huh? So if they can manage to do better, you teach them better. Delete. So adding content is quite troublesome. So once you type finish, you want to touch outside of the screen. Okay, I think at this point, I don't need to continue with the screen sharing for iPhone. So I think hopefully you already get the idea. Yeah. So so when you're teaching them to add a contact, you do some typing, you type finish the name. If they're wrong, actually there's a whole cocktail of issues we're trying to do typing lah. But I don't really have time to go into that today. So I will just sort of leave it at that. Explore. The best I can tell you is explore. Right. So when you're typing, if you find that there's they type some error and then they need to edit it, again, you can use that rotor gesture. So again, the rotor gesture is one of those basic things you do need to make sure they can master. There are ways of customizing. So if you go into your voiceover settings, there is a way to change gestures. So you find that for the life of them, they just cannot perform a rotor gesture. It is possible to assign another gesture to perform the same role as a rotor gesture. Then let them use that. Right? I don't recommend that because it means that the next person who comes along and tries to help them will be working with gestures which they totally didn't expect to be there. So, but yeah, if you have to, you have to, right? So rotor gesture changes how the cursor moves, right? Whether by character, by word. So this will help to allow them to navigate their cursor to the place where it's wrong so that they can delete it and then type the correct one in. But usually it's so tedious, I will recommend you teach beginners to just clear out the whole wrong thing and then type again. For context, this is still tolerable. So once you get to writing long messages, then that's not tolerable. Imagine you write 5 sentences and you delete everything because there's a mistake in the second line. So when you're in that kind of situation, then you can try teaching them how to navigate the cursor with the rotor gesture. So I guess that's all I'll do for now. I don't think I can do more in the time where I have to. So I'll just quickly show you that it's very similar for Android phone.
Meeting button. Recording. Audio disconnected. Start my video. Double share button.
So,
Microsoft OneDrive in list. Google Edge panels out of list. Microsoft OneDrive. Google Drive. Box. Photo. Document. Web URL. Screen. Allows you to record audio. Allow button. Only this time button. Allow button. Wi-Fi or cellular data. Start recording or casting. Cancel button. Start now button. Wi-Fi or cellular data. Zoom. Appear on top. Navigator button. Appear on top. Search apps button. More options. This permission allows an app to show things on top of other apps you're using. Accessibility 2 of 6. Android Auto 3. RNOG. Forest. RNOG 6. Arza. Or Bixby routines. Bixby Vision. None. Calendar 11. Bixby Voice 10 of 62. Bixby Vision 9 of 62. Bixby routines 8. Or Arzo 6. RNOG. Android. Accessibility. This permission allows an app to show things on top of other apps you're using. This may interfere with your use of other apps. 1 of 6. More options. Button. Out of list. Double tap to activate.
Am I hearing my screen yet? Not yet, right?
Authentication framework 7 of 62. In list 62 items.
Can hear your.
Yeah, but you're not seeing my Android screen, right?
Yeah, not seeing.
This permission. More options. Button. Search apps. Button. Appear on top. This permission. R zone. Calendar. Digital wellbeing. Duo. Facebook. Galaxy. Samsung Global. Samsung. Smart Tutor. 51 of 60. Your phone compat. Show YouTube Music. 61 of 62. 62 of 62. On.
Okay, so hopefully that solves the
One UI
problem.
home. SD buses in pager. Recents button. Recent. Zoom. 31 of. Zoom. Wi-Fi or cellular data. Dial in. Edge panels. Edge panels. Wi-Fi or cellular data. Double tap. You acting the device audio. Progress.
Oh well.
Stop share button. Share audio. Start or join meeting page. Join meeting button. Out of name. Recent meeting ID button. Microsoft Suite meeting. 0 0 2 2 7 7 8 7 6 6 6 1 1 1
Right, so Vishnu, I need you to let me in again.
Yep, sure.
Double edge panel, dial in, Wi-Fi, Webkit, Galaxy S20 5G. 4 button, participant, share button, participant, share button. 2, Microsoft OneDrive, document, web URL, 3. Start recording or casting with Zoom. Zoom will have access to all of these. Cancel button, start now button. Wi-Fi or cellular data, 1 UI home, SG button, in pager, move it. Double tap to activate, double tap to hold to lock. 6. Double tap to activate, double tap to hold to lock press. Actions available.
You're still not successful, right? Okay, if that's the case, I won't waste time. So I'll just try and show you over the camera.
We can see the screen.
Can you see the screen, yeah?
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. So same thing. Anyway, I still do refer you back to my web camera. So same idea. You touch the part of the screen.
Double tap to activate. Double tap and hold to long press.
You can
use tap with 3 fingers to view.
You can explore by touch.
KNFB reader. Speak. Tuning radio.
Or you can swipe.
Double tap and hold to long press. Video via weather. Current location. Update weather button.
Right.
Search.
So you notice.
Google search. Google search.
Doesn't matter which part of the screen.
Voice search. Google Lens. Galaxy Store. Play Store. 52 notifications. Google. Folder. Microsoft. Page 1 of 2. Default. Page 2 of 2. Current page is last page. Page 1 of page. Messages. WeChat.
Some slight.
Double tap and hold to long press. Actions available. Use tap with 3 fingers to view.
Some slight differences in the way they behave, things they say, but the general idea is still there.
Messages.
Right. So.
Double tap to activate. Double tap and hold to long press. Actions available. Use tap with 3 fingers to view.
So we can touch directly there for phone again. So double tap.
Filter calls button.
Same thing.
Search. More options. Yes. Outgoing call. Text app. Nice. Missed call. Text app. Missed call. +6 button. The 6 of outgoing. Incoming. Missed call. Rosie 1. 1600. 8149.
Again, some bit
double tap and hold to long press.
some bit of difference in how it behaves. You have to double tap on this.
Expand. 18236. Missed call. Call button.
Then double tap to call the button, which I'm obviously not going to do.
Back button. Navigation bar. Contacts tab 3 or 4. Phone.
So find contacts.
Contact.
So you see, I located my contact.
How did you get to this on Android? How do you on the accessibility feature?
Okay,
I'm in the settings now, but I can't see.
Oh yeah. So same thing in your Android phone. You have this section called accessibility.
Yeah.
So you open your phone settings, right? So the problem with accessibility is not in the same place for all phones. Even for different lines of Samsung phones, you also can find accessibility in different sections. So sometimes you go under general, sometimes you go under more settings, sometimes you go under advanced settings. So the headache I'm trying to show you where accessibility in an Android phone is not in a fixed place. And they sometimes tuck it away in somewhere very strange. You could do a search. So when you open settings at the top, there's always that search field, right? So you can try typing accessibility there. Unfortunately, there's no shortcut which I can set. Right now, just now you saw me jump right into the accessibility settings for iPhone, right? Because there's a shortcut which I can set to go straight in. But Android phone hasn't been developed that well enough for it to be easy to manage accessibility stuff. So you do have to go through the long, tedious process of looking for accessibility. But having said that, Android phones also have an equivalent of accessibility shortcut. So once you set that, you have something like press the power key and the volume up key to turn it on or off. Sometimes you actually have a few choices, which is very interesting. So you can choose to hold down the volume up and down keys together for, I can't remember, 5 seconds to turn it on or off. So yeah, I have a big headache trying to find the accessibility settings myself, right? So I don't think I'll spend time doing that. So just know that you search for the accessibility settings in the Android phone. They might again categorize the headings: vision, hearing, physical, whatever, right? So you look under vision, then the thing you're looking for on Android phone is called talkback. If you're using a really old Samsung phone, which is a bit on the high end side, like maybe your S7, they actually don't come pre-installed with talkback. So another one of those painful things about trying to help someone with an Android phone is, especially the China Android phones, the talkback or the accessibility stuff are not pre-installed on the phone. It might not be a bad that like lethal or fatal, because you can always just download them from the Play Store. They are free. So you can go to the Play Store and search for, I think it's called Google Accessibility Suite. So suite as in SUITE. It's free, download, install, and it will be in your settings. Right? So good luck with the search. There's also another configuration thing which you need to do. Some phones, they are, what we call it? The stock keyboard, right? So the pre-installed keyboard will not work with the TalkBack, right? So TalkBack is Android phone's equivalent of VoiceOver, right? So some keyboards don't work with TalkBack, so you need to install a keyboard that works. So there are two which you can try. One is called Gboard. Last time we called Google Keyboard, right? The other one is Swift Keyboard. So SWIFT, Swift Keyboard. So these two keyboards work reasonably well with TalkBack. So you also want to install that for Android phones. Yeah, so I was saying, right? So older, somewhat older and higher end Samsung phones, they come pre-installed with this other thing called Voice Assistant, not TalkBack, right? So if the Android OS is not updated, you will get Voice Assistant instead of TalkBack. You can still download Google Accessibility Suite and get TalkBack for these phones, but they won't be called, they won't be under the Vision heading. You actually have to look under the, I think more services still under accessibility settings, but it's something that says install services or more services. Then it's TalkBack. Yeah, so a bit more tedious to set up for Android phone. Okay, so yeah. Right, so you got the idea, right? How to set up for this, right? Go to settings, accessibility settings. Good luck looking for it. Then everything you explore from there. Yeah, so back to the screen again. So like I was saying, touch. Wait, can you see? Okay. So once again, just swipe.
Double tap to activate. Double tap and hold to long press.
Okay, so if you want to go to the notification area, so TalkBack has this thing. Oh, okay, so you have these three buttons at the bottom for those who are familiar with Android phone. They still work as well with TalkBack. But you have, I think, okay, again, there's some variation. You probably have to touch.
Back button, out of list, navigation bar, home button.
Right, so it says home. So it says home, and you double tap.
One UI home. Double tap to activate. Double tap and hold to long press. Actions available. Use tap with 3 fingers to view.
Right, so same thing, where before you just touch whatever you want. When you have a screen reader working, you touch and double tap. I think.
Recent button, navigation bar. Recent tabs.
Okay.
Home button.
Right.
Home screen. Page 1 of 2. Default page.
Yeah, it's really quite a headache sometimes. Depending on how old your phone is. Particular phones may need you to double tap exactly on the home button before you can activate the home button, or the recent key or the back key. And other cases, the moment you touch that key, they will activate that key. So you have to be really careful what you do with the bottom of your screen. But yeah, like I just tested just now, luckily, it seems that if you get a reasonably new phone, after you feel the bottom of the screen and you find the key you want,
Recent button.
right? Like for example,
double tap and hold to long press.
You can double tap anywhere on the screen.
Recent tabs.
Right, so recent app is the equivalent of SAVH, so then you can swipe through the stuff. It's still not very well developed. Like for example, if you okay, I don't have recent apps here. So unfortunately for recent apps, once you find the app you want to close, you have to slide up on that app to close it, which is very annoying and very challenging for a lot of people who can't see and not very good with their motor skills coordination. Deleting items from the notification area. Yeah, so if you want to get rid of something from the notification area, you have to swipe across the item on the screen. So again, really challenging to try and clear things from the notification area. But yeah, that's the main point I usually tell people. Compared to iPhone, Android phone, the design for screen readers is still not as good. It has actually come a long way. So 10 years ago, I tell you, you can forget about using an Android phone if you can't see, because the talkback, whatever equipment they have, just don't work properly. But now you still can live, if you're prepared to live with all the limitations, you still can get by using an Android phone if you're totally blind. Okay, final point I'll make. So besides using the keys at the bottom, there's this gesture, which will be different from iPhone. Android phone has, okay, besides your one finger left and right and double tap, that's the same as iPhone. If you want to do something like pull out the notification area, right? You know, normally you pull down from the top with one finger, right? You use two fingers instead for Android phone.
Notification state 11:03 casting Bluetooth on Wi-Fi 6 home button navigation.
Right.
One UI home. Button in pager.
And you know, if you swipe up from the bottom, you look at your list of apps, right? So two fingers.
App screen, page 1 of 3. Home screen, page 1 of 2, default page. Home button, out of pager, navigate.
And if you're in your lock screen and you want to unlock your lock screen, you also swipe up from the bottom with two fingers. Okay, so in some sense, one key design of Android screen readers is, if you're doing a dragging, scrolling kind of action, for Android phones, you just change from using one finger to using two fingers. So like, for example, you want to change screen, right?
Search in pager, one UI home.
Two fingers.
Home screen. Microsoft folder. Home screen, page 1 of 2, default page.
So
double tap to activate. Double tap and hold to long press. Actions available. Use tap with 3 fingers to view.
The phone.
Double tap phone. Phone. ITSNEC in list. Command. Double
So
tap.
drag.
Showing items. Showing items 10 to 21 of 354.
I actually didn't show scrolling on the iPhone. Scrolling on the iPhone is 3 fingers instead of 2 fingers. And I'll just leave it to you to observe what happens. Those of you who have iPhones, it's quite a bit different from the what we call a sighted way of how the screen will behave. So this one is still very close, right? You drag how much, you move how much. Okay, the other thing that is quite key to the design of talkback on the Android phone.
Home button. One UI home. Phone.
Okay,
double tap
so
to activate. Double tap and hold to long press. Actions available. Use tap with 3 fingers to view.
So there's a key concept in Android phone screen readers, especially talkback. Okay, actually talkback screen voice assistant, that outdated screen reader for older Samsung phone doesn't have this design. So in Android phone, screen readers have what we call a two-part gesture. So if you want to perform a gesture, instead of just left or right or double tap, you actually can move your finger in 2 different directions. So for example, if I want to go to my notifications, instead of 2 finger drag up on top, I can do a horizontal. So from somewhere from here, one finger, right? This way and go down.
Notification state 11:06 casting Bluetooth on Wi-Fi signal full. Phone signal full. Battery 85%. Saturday 8th of January. Out of pager. Back button. Navigation bar.
Right, so
Last. Lip phone notification. Lip phone service. Zoom notification. Meeting in progress. YouTube notification. Red circle poke daxi. YouTube notification. Last. YouTube. Bullet. Night. Last. Facebook. The 7th of January. 15:34. Facebook. Camera 1. Alerting notifications.
okay.
Double tap to activate.
Instead of performing the back, but instead of looking for the back button, I can do a go down then left.
One UI home. Search in pager.
Okay.
Double tap and hold to long press.
Instead of doing the home button, I can go up and then left. Right. So this is what we call two-part gesture, because there are 2 gestures which move in 2 perpendicular directions. Actually, there are also gestures which go like up then down, or left and right, or right and left. Again, you can customize gestures to some extent, but I usually work with the default ones. So this is quite important. If you want to teach, if for example, they just cannot find the home button properly, or is designed that way where the moment you touch the home button gets triggered. So maybe that's not safe for them to learn. Then you might want to teach something like the home gesture. Especially I noticed from experience that the back gesture, the down then left, often tends to be so easy to perform, it's easier than trying to find the back button. So that's another reason to teach them. Some gestures are actually easier to perform than the alternative methods of executing the functions like the home button, whatever. Right? So you do have to do a bit of experimentation with them. Let me see. Okay, keyboard, yeah, keyboard is the third-party keyboard are really another one of those headaches about using screen readers with Android phones. So I guess I won't spend more time on that. I think it's going to be really tedious to go through it. But yes, main point is you do have to go try things out with the student, the learner, to see which method works. Like I think there was some issue before where I tried to help somebody with either Swift or Google. They are not good with the explore by touch method or typing. So they need they actually ideally would have preferred a standard way of typing. So find the key you want and double tap. But I think Swift keyboard, Swift keyboard for some reason doesn't allow you to just touch the key you want and then double tap to type or fill another one. Swift keyboard is totally touch typing. You have no choice apparently. So Swift keyboard will not be suitable for somebody who just cannot control their movement finely enough to do touch typing. Right? So you want to think about that, if I'm not wrong. Right? I think there's a workaround whereby you sort of have to start from just outside of the keyboard, and then you can do swiping from Q all the way to Z, then swipe back all the way, which is quite intolerable for most people. So you have to be aware of these very fine little issues with how screen readers work. Yeah, so there's touch typing, there's standard typing, but they don't always work the same simple, reliable method of choice way that it works in iPhone, right? So I'll leave you with that, and we can stop for the smartphone part. Okay, so it's 11:10. Right, so I guess we can break for another 5 minutes, and I'll spend the last, hopefully just 45 minutes to quickly run through how you can use a computer with the screen reader for computers. Okay, so yeah, we'll pause the recording and we'll see you in 5 minutes. All right, so the final stretch is about using a computer with a screen reader. Okay, maybe before that, I'll play you a little video which I meant to play, but ran out of time. But maybe I'll just show you anyway. It's a little bit like to double emphasize to you how you can teach somebody how to use a phone with a screen reader. I did a little partial demo video of how you can do it. So I'll play that for you now.
Desktop, ZP toolbar, there, double LED, media controls. Video details, dash Studio, dash Google Chrome, to move the item, press the arrow keys. Video details, dash Studio, dash Google Chrome, main region, video player, mute button to activate, press enter.
So you can see my screen?
Play button.
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, so here goes.
Video player button to activate, press enter. Use virtual PC cursor off F.
Okay,
Video
so
player,
this is a
press
simple demonstration of how you can teach someone with vision loss how to use a smartphone. So in this case, we're using an iPhone with voiceover. So the key is when you're teaching somebody who cannot see the phone, or what you should be doing is you should be holding their fingers, really literally holding the fingers and moving the fingers around to perform all the actions that are necessary. So you have now a model student holding the phone with his hands, right? And then now I'm going to come in with my hands. So what happens is you hold the student's hands, right? And then you take the finger that is supposed to perform the actions. Okay, first off, you can show them where are the different parts of the phone by moving the finger and say, oh, this is your power button. This is your volume up button. This is the volume down button, and things like that. And oh, this is where you will plug in your the charging jack. So that's for orientating them around the physical phone. Next is to teach them the gesture, like you can already see me holding his finger as compared to the hand, as compared to telling him what to do. Because sometimes if you tell them what to do, they may not be able to fully understand. So very often nothing better than really moving the fingers exactly where you want them to be. So you can tell them, oh, if you want to check the battery level, you feel this corner of the phone. And then
41% battery power.
if you want to check the battery level. So if
Actions available.
so once you move your finger there and then it connects, and then it connects with the right part of the screen and the information gets read out, that is how they will know that, oh, this is what they're supposed to do. So you can tell them, oh, the phone app is somewhere down here, so I can try and feel here.
Move it. Page 2 of the dock. Seeing AI.
So you can sort of, oh, if they're in the way, then you say, okay, move your hands here, be careful here.
Page 2 dock. Seeing AI. Page 2
Oh, okay.
of 13.
Alright, so in this example, I don't have phone here, I have Seeing AI here. So you can tell him, oh, this is where you will go if you want to find Seeing AI. Then you can teach them to move the finger around.
Page 2 of 13 dock. Seeing AI.
Right? So that's for teaching this basic gesture whereby they're just feeling the part of the screen that they need to go. Okay, next there is another basic gesture whereby which is called flicking. Right? So you first put them on a particular part of the screen. Right? So you place the finger on a part of the screen to start them off. Then you tell them, oh, this is where we are. Okay, so when you hear introduction coming in, you have to stop them yourself first to prevent confusion to the learner. Okay, so this is the other basic gesture that we often have to teach. This is called a flick.
Navigation folder.
Right, so as you can see, as I move his finger, the focus, the rectangle is moving around, the voice is reading different parts of the screen. So you can show that this is how you would move your finger in order for the gesture to work. Then you can ask him to perform a gesture himself to see whether he gets the idea. So now you can try and swipe yourself. So in this case, he has gotten so now he has shown this example whereby he has not performed the gesture properly. He moved a bit too slowly. So this is where you can highlight to him. You can point out to him that if he moves too slowly, you'll hear this sound effect where there's a multiple clicking sound and you'll hear it read multiple icons at the same time. So this is how you should highlight to him that he has performed the gesture wrongly. So when he has done it quickly, you must prompt him that he should be moving his finger quickly. And you should be moving his finger in that kind of speed. Then you can teach him the reverse gesture.
Maps. Navigation folder. 12 apps. HT record numbers.
Okay.
Loading.
So the
pages. YouTube. 50.
Okay. So that's that.
Escape. Main region. Video player. Alt F4. Channel content. Dash Studio. Dash Google Chrome. Main region. Video. F6. Toolbar. Press Alt F4. Desktop. Folder view list. Google Chrome. 1132. To move items, use the arrow keys. To edit the selected item, press F2.
Right. So back to the final segment.
Title is desktop 1. Meeting controls. To move an item, press the arrow keys. Meeting.
So you do gestures on a smartphone to operate the screen reader, but for a computer, not most computers don't have a touch screen, so you're not going to perform gestures. You can potentially
上面是直上面可以，对不起，因为有一个 workshop。
Meeting controls. Alt M. Music currently unmuted. Alt plus A button. Stop share left there. Alt plus right there button. Music currently unmuted. Alt plus A button. Off. Stop video left there. Alt plus right there button.
Okay, so where was I? Okay, so keyboard commands, right? So most laptops don't have a touchscreen, right? So I can't use that. You can perform gestures nowadays on the trackpad. Right, so the trackpad is that part on the screen of your laptop where you can move your cursor around. So you can also actually swipe on the trackpad nowadays. But again, that's not what we're used to doing, and I think it's still a bit limited what you can do with that. So I have totally ignored basically the gestures for trackpad for screen readers for laptops. So I'll just focus on, again, the good old-fashioned old school way of doing things, which is keyboard commands, right? So if you can't see what's on the screen, you can't read the text, you can't see the icons, you can't see the tiny little arrow, you can make it huge, but then what's the point for some people? So of course, if you can't see the arrow, you can't use your mouse because you have no idea where the pointer is going and when to stop. So if you don't use a mouse, the next thing is obviously use the keyboard. So besides typing ABC, your keyboard has lots of other keys which you can use, which you can press. So if you press the different keys around the edge of the keyboard with your ABCs, your 1, 2, 3s, and other keys, you ask the computer to perform various tasks. Actually, there are a lot of these keyboard commands which you can perform without a screen reader. So all of you actually, if you look through the huge mountains of keyboard commands I send to you all through Deborah, you actually can use almost all, maybe just one group of lists which you cannot. The rest you can actually start trying out on your own maybe, without needing to have a screen reader. If you're the really adventurous kind, you can actually search online for the screen readers to install them on your computer and then try them out. Or you can just use narrator. There is a particular list called narrator commands or something like that. Narrator is a screen reader that is built into Windows. It is not, in my opinion, fully usable yet, but it can be used as a backup for some level of computer operation. And the good thing is it's pre-installed on your computer. So that list of commands should have included what you need to press to activate the narrator. So you have a look. But anyway, it's Windows Control Enter. Right? So here's where we really start talking about keyboard commands. So at the end of the day, learning to use a computer with screen reader is really about memorizing all the millions of keyboard commands. And not to really worry too much. It's not a million. You might need to learn about 50. I haven't really counted, right? So it's still a lot, but yeah, you can potentially narrow it down to a smaller group. So I will do this with you. So when you see what is written in this, there's something like alternate F4, for example. So you know where's the alternate, right? You just look at your keyboards. On either side of the spacebar is alternate key. You know what's F4, right? Yeah, you all have normal access. You should have no problem looking at that. So if you want to press a command like alternate F4, the way to do it is you hold down the alternate, right? So for example, with one hand, you press alternate with one finger and keep it depressed. Then with the other hand, you can just basically type F4, right? So just press and let go for the F4. So after that is done, then you let go alternate. Okay. So for people who are very new to this is how you can describe to them to execute a keyboard command. But once you get used to it, it's really, you don't have to be so mechanical and rigid. Alternate F4 can actually be something that you can press in 0.2 seconds or less, right? So if you look at all the keyboard commands, it's something plus something, something plus something, almost always. So the things in front are the things you will hold down, and then the last key is the one you will just press and let go. So once you have done the typing of the last key, the rest can let go. Okay, so that's the general description of how to execute keyboard commands. So in terms of the order of which list of commands to go through, I always start with this one, which says general commands for Windows. Let me open that up.
Camera. Search box edit. Dropbox. Type DR. Enter. Dropbox. Items view multi-select list box. T1026. Enter. Shell folder view. Items view multi-select T. Item type MP3 format sounds. Sean Paul temperature MP3 171 516. Item type MP T. Temp tutorial material for enter. Temp referrals and missed 469 5 T. Top file 4-1-1-21. Items. Left bracket overview for the basic computer skills package. Right audio descriptions downloads. T. Type Microsoft Word. Basic computer concepts 2.docs. 5 over. Real right arrow. Julie 2018.10.29 docs. Save documentation. Zip. Intake assessment. Intake assessment. Lucian 2019. Temp referrals and missed 406. Temp referrals and missed 400. Work records 460 and 500. SAVH 475. Work diaries 471 516. T. Temp tutorial material 400. Enter. Temp tutorial material. Items view box. T. General keyboard shortcuts commands for Mac OS. General keyboard shortcuts for Windows 10 computers. Docs 20 of 70. Enter.
Okay, so this is the one.
General keyboard shortcuts for Windows 10 computers. Docs compatibility mode. Word. Print view. Edit Microsoft Word document. Windows Zero. Snap assist. Learning applications list box. Temp tutorial material 111. To move to the
So I always start this because this is the basic ones. Before you learn anything else, you can learn this. So things like the Windows key, open your start this thing. Then you can type the program you want to search for. honestly, the first thing they should be learning is how to type. So before all these other keys, they should know how to type the ABCs. If they cannot, it's really hard to imagine how far they're going to get using a keyboard command. So the first thing they need to learn is how to type the keys on the keyboard without looking at the keys. If any of you are familiar with the idea of touch typing, so that is the way to go. It is the same method you all do, except that you don't have to use your eyes. When you place all your fingers on your A, S, D, F, and JKL and semicolon, you always keep your 8 fingers on these positions, and you use them as a reference point to move your respective fingers to the other keys on the keyboard that each finger is supposed to type. So if you keep your fingers on the SDF, your little finger should move from the A upwards and it should get to the Q. Then once you type the Q, it should return to the A and just stay in position over the A. So that is pretty much the general idea of how they're supposed to type things out when they cannot see. Right? So hopefully that will be enough to give at least some of you some idea of how you can teach someone to type. Yeah, so this is obviously not going to be something you can handle in one session. Not impossible, but usually when I teach someone to type, it is at least 2 or 3 sessions or 2 hours each. So this is definitely not going to be that thing which you will do this coming 22nd of January, or certainly it's not going to be a one-time thing if you really do want to do that. Okay, so this is, yeah, that's why this is a quickly go through all the stuff. Okay, so learn how to type. So once you learn your ABCs, you learn that this command plus this command will do this, right? So in this particular list, which I have in front of me now, so I guess I wouldn't do too much more than just quickly tell you some things, especially when my computer seems to be hanging. Oh, sorry.
General keyboard shortcuts for Windows 10 computers. Compatibility mode dashboard. Microsoft Word document.
So when you type, it's supposed to tell you what you want to type. So okay, I already starting to use keyboard commands.
General keyboard commands for Windows 10 computers.
So most basics up and down.
Full application key, full tab, move to the next, full Windows logo key, left arrow, Windows key, right arrow, open, close,
and left and right.
N, D, O, W, S, space, L, O, G, O, space, K, E, Y, space.
And from there you can do control.
Left arrow, Windows key, right arrow, colon.
Do word by word.
Or close, or open, right arrow key.
You can do next thing, which is very easy to figure out, is highlighting. So just shift with the arrow key.
Selected, E selected, Y selected, right arrow, select colon selected.
And of course you can delete now. So these are the kind of commands you're doing. So I would say the best way to teach someone how to use a keyboard, a computer with screen reader, is to open up this file and then just go through the list of commands with them. Along the way, you definitely need them to start using the commands reading. So the best way to learn something is to actually use it, right? So that's why. Right? If you look through the list and you find, oh, he or she is not going to use this particular command at this point in time, just go ahead and skip that. So that is my essential tip to you all for how to choose what to teach your visually impaired. If the person doesn't even know how to type, doesn't even know what is a computer, what is a folder, what is a file, if you feel your foundations in basic concepts are very strong, yeah, you have to start teaching from that very basic level. So if not, then okay, you can complain to me that I didn't choose the right clients for you. Right. So I recommend this first group of key commands here is definitely a must know, right? So Windows key, tab, enter, spacebar, escape. Right? You need to be aware of the concepts of menu, right? So the start menu, the thing at the top, right, which is referred to as the ribbon, and this thing, which is like the menu you get when you right click on something. So these are menus. So menus you exit by using escape, right? But things like Windows, you exit using alternate F4. You cannot use escape to close a window. So sometimes they will get confused and they start trying to close the window with escape. Right? So be aware of these things to highlight.
Level 0, desktop. Level 1, bold Windows, misspelled, P plus D Windows.
This is another useful thing to know. Windows D.
Windows D, folder view list view, Google Chrome.
This can actually be done with one hand, but if they're new, they might not find it easy to do. So to execute Windows D with one hand, you use your thumb to press the Windows key. and you can use your middle finger to type the D, because like I was saying, your foundation is always your ASDF, the position. So your left hand, the 4 fingers are already on the ASDF. So that same left hand, you can shift your thumb below to press the Windows key when pressing D. So that is the tip on how to teach them to press Windows D. If they can, it's actually much more efficient to do it that way. But if not, there are some keyboards which have 2 Windows keys, one on the left of the spacebar and one on the right. So you might teach them to hold down the right Windows key with your right hand and type D with the left hand. Or the other alternative is this other command, Windows M. Right? So
Windows E. Search box edit.
And the computer is hanging, so I better not risk it. Okay, Windows M. So Windows M, you use your left hand press the Windows key and your right hand to type M, right? Again, separate the commands into 2 parts. Each hand press 1 key, easier to manage, right? Until you come to the parts where the commands are like 3 keys on go, like alternate control, whatever, right? Or control shift, whatever, right? So again, control shift, whatever, those kind of commands is easier to press if you use your left hand, hold down the control and shift, then use your right hand to press the other things. Okay, let me see whether my computer is recovered.
Pause, search. Splitting sounds tip for JAWS dialog. A new feature will use end screen reader speech to space. Stop video left arrow plus the right arrow button. Text switching. JAWS professional to move to an item. Temp tutorial material. General keyboard shortcuts for Windows 10 computers. /dash compatibility mode dashboard. General keyboard shortcuts for Windows 10 computers. /dash compatibility mode dashboard.
Okay, so basics. Oh yeah, by the way, in case you're wondering, your software is not going to talk at this kind of speed when you first set up for them. And yeah, obviously most of them, if not all of them, won't be able to follow this kind of speed. I won't go into that, no time. Right, so same thing. So chances are the computer will be set up with a reasonably acceptable speed talking rate, right? Because these are beginners at all, right? So you don't have to worry about trying to figure out what the computer is saying, unless you also really cannot handle the voice even when it's talking slowly.
Options, including shutdown. Windows misspelled, key plus X, same as actually.
Okay, Windows X is another important one to learn.
Windows misspelled, key plus
because for shutdown.
Windows misspelled, key plus D, goes to the notification area left there, bottom right corner.
Although the other way of shutting down people, that most of the people I work with do is Windows D, so go to desktop, then Alt F4. Then you get the shutdown dialog box. But I prefer this Windows X thing, which I'll show you, which is why I'm mentioning it here. Yeah, and actually this computer is Windows 11. So I think the command for shutting down hasn't changed from Windows 10 to Windows 11.
Windows misspelled, key plus X, same as actually. Options, Windows misspelled, key plus Windows misspelled, key plus A, brings up the Windows misspelled, key plus E, open file explorer. Options,
Windows I, not important.
Windows misspelled, key plus brings up the settings window. Windows misspelled, key plus A, brings up the action center for notifications which were flashed recently.
Windows A might be useful, especially if there's a pop-up announcement which disappeared and you want to check it. So Windows A.
Windows A.
Right, so you see the thing appear at the right hand side of the space of the screen, then you can tap.
Right connections button, right left slider 40%, battery charging 100%, quick settings button, all settings button, media panel, click on the source app, play button, activate, press spacebar.
Okay, in Windows 11, it is really like the equivalent of the control center on the phone, or the quick settings panel for the Android phone, where you quickly turn things on and off. So then you need to learn an additional one, which is not inside this list.
Escape. General keyboard shortcuts for Windows 10
Windows N.
Notification chevron button, activate, press spacebar. Escape. Windows N. List box, notifications from Google Chrome.
Okay, so this is your notification area, then just arrow through.
Promotion board, reaching notifications from Microsoft, CPF 4, plus 4 notifications button 1 1. Activate, press spacebar.
And escape to get out.
Escape. No notifications. Activate. Press spacebar. Escape.
Oh, you might need to use this one. Alternate tab, also a very essential one.
General keyboard shortcuts for Windows 10 computers. Compatibility mode dashboard. Windows misspelled. Key plus E, open file explorer for browsing files and folders. Windows
E is also important, right? Because it's how you're gonna go around looking for files.
Blank. Level 0. Controls for working with Windows dialog box. Level 1. Alt goes to menu bar left there. Tab right.
So Alt goes to the top there. I guess I better cover a bit of that later.
Misspelled. Alt plus underline letter code selects the menu option with the.
So Alt plus underline. So if you have a dialog box.
Control Shift F font Asian text font colon edit com.
Here's a dialog box for adjusting font sizes. You see basically everything. There's an underline letter somewhere. So if you go to that section for choosing font size, you'll notice the word S, the letter S is underlined for font size. So every time you see an underline letter in a dialog box, right? when it's in a dialog box, you probably can press alternate plus the underline letter. On the other hand, if you're in a menu, menus will also have underline letters, usually. Okay, let me show you the
applications menu available to move right, press up or down, copy available C.
Right, so you see copy the C is underlined. Adjust indents, the U is underlined. Yeah.
Separate list L.
Separate list, it says L. So the software actually will tell you what is the underline letter at the end.
Join the previous list available J.
I joined previous J. So this is the other way to teach the visually impaired how to use this underline letter thing. So for menus, you don't need to press alternate, you just press the letter. So this is useful when you want to jump to the list, right? So all these lists, there could be just one thing. So instead of arrow down many times, you can just press the letter. Yeah, so like for example, this font thing. So you can do, right? This application key, which will open the shortcut menu, which is like the right click menu, then press F. Right, so instead of the application key and then arrow down, this is font and press enter. But if they can't remember too much things, then you go the long cut but less things to remember method.
Microsoft Word document. Not required for the option with the underline options dialog box. Not required for selecting options menus.
Yeah, I think I already mentioned here about menus, no need alternate.
Alt plus down arrow colon combo box left boxes options. Alt plus down arrow colon.
Alt plus down might not need to teach them at the beginner level, but it will come in useful eventually.
Control plus O colon opens the open dialog box.
This one nowadays not that important. Control O is not.
Control plus N colon opens the new left arrow right.
Control N could be useful. Start a new document, start a new file, start a new whatever.
Control plus S colon save changes to a file.
Control S is probably quite useful as well. Save changes.
Control plus P colon opens the print dialog box to print the file.
Print, if they don't have printer, not important.
Alt plus F4 colon closes the current window.
Yeah, Alt plus.
Control Alt plus F4 colon closes the current window.
Yeah, Alt plus F4 definitely must know.
Phase 2. Control plus F4 colon closes the tab.
Control F4 maybe no need to know.
Control plus W colon put Alt plus F4. Control plus F4.
You can use Control W to replace Control F4 nowadays.
Alt plus Tab colon switch to another open window semicolon hold down.
So of that, another critical one.
Use attach switching window all open windows.
So I also have this long explanation about what happens if you have more than one window open. So if I do alternate tab right now.
Stop video left arrow plus the right arrow button. Phase 2. General keyboard shortcuts for Windows 10 computers. Stop video left arrow plus the right. Phase 2. General keyboard. Stop video left arrow. Phase 2. General keyboard shortcuts.
Right, you will only get these two, but if you look at the taskbar, you obviously know I have 100 other windows open. So hold down alternate and press tab let go. But your alternate is still hold down. They just keep on repeating and hold down alternate, but tab let go, tab let go. Until you find yeah. And you don't need this, you get F4. So that's how it works, right? So again, it emphasizes alternate F4, alternate tab critical. Control tab would be useful to some extent. So like for example, there are two sections here. I can do Control tab. Between font and advanced, right? The tab is that those two things at the top of this dialog box. If you are working with internet browsers, Control tab will jump between the tabs. If you have multiple tabs within one window. I assume you all know what that is. Alt plus space, not really important. Yeah, it's very unlikely to be important. Some very odd cases might be, but yeah, we won't assume that you're going to handle odd cases all the time. You already know this, left and right. I already mentioned control left and right by one word, so these are useful. Up and down again, like the most basic, no need to think method. This one can actually don't teach, control up and down. Home and end is potentially useful because it jumps to the end and beginning of line. If you do left and right, it's still a lot of letters to navigate through. So it helps to speed things up. So in combination with control left, control right, home end, and so on. Begin and end of document, if you have a long document, when you're teaching them, they're unlikely to work with very long documents. So this one probably no need to teach at the beginning stage. This one also don't really need to teach. Page up, page down. It's just like random jumping through the document. This one not really necessary for Word. It's necessary for Excel if you're working with more than one worksheet. But I think nowadays, if you do a beginner's lesson in Excel, you won't even have that. If you're working with PDF documents, you might need this because control page up, control page down is necessary for moving between pages in a PDF document, or at least in my experience. It's possible that the PDF can be set so that you have continuously moved through the whole document with just up and down arrows, but this part I never really figured out why, but nowadays most PDF documents you can't do that, and I never really figured out how to set it so that you can just use arrow up or down to move through the whole document. So control page up, control page down is something you want to teach if you're teaching somebody how to use PDF documents. Yeah, so shift plus something, that is a movement control. So like I was showing you shift left and right, shift up and down. Right, it's highlight by the amount of movement. Select all, control A. That's also useful. Yeah, so cut, copy, paste. I sort of get the impression that even some of you will already be using this. Cut, copy, paste commands. So if you type something wrongly, you can use Control Z or Z. It actually works in some surprising places, but not always. So yeah. This one, I don't know how often it happens. Here and there can use as well. So deletion, I leave you to read through that. Control backspace, control delete is nice to know, not critical. Right, so yeah, the bold, italic, underline, very easy to remember. So that's why I always include this. But you must, usually the way to do this is you highlight the thing you want to apply the formatting to, then you apply the formatting. So I already mentioned Windows E, will open the File Explorer for navigating through your files and folders, and this is probably mainly about that. Rename the file or folder. F2 is important. F5 maybe not that important. So if you delete something by accident, you can save yourself by pressing Ctrl Z. You rename a file or folder by accident, you can probably use Ctrl Z. You can use Ctrl A. I like this, but you might not want to teach this to your clients. It sort of skips sending things to the recycle bin. But if they're too trigger happy and they always delete things by accidentally, you don't want to teach them this permanently delete thing. Again, beginner level won't need to use alternate enter. So it depends on what level you're going to start working with. So we'll just see where fate takes you on later on. I guess these are all like once you go in the nitty-gritty of looking around your files and folders. At the beginner level, I don't imagine that will happen. So I guess I'll skip. So things like selecting many files, files with spacing in between. Yeah, I think I'll just skip all this. You all can experiment. If you get really adventurous when we do assessment, you all know you're going to get assessed, right? So you could have a chat with me about all these other things if you're really adventurous and really keen and do. So Alternate D or Control L or Control O, nowadays all of these perform the same function, right? So you press this if you want to type in the website or type in a search phrase. Yeah. F5, yeah, more relevant for web pages, right? Refresh the page. This one, maybe not. Go alternate left, go back previous page. Might be useful. Add to favorites. May or may not be. If you happen to be working with someone who's really keen about spending his or her time surfing the web, maybe you need to spend more time on all these. This one is an Internet Explorer thing, so it's obsolete really. So nowadays, you can only use Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, or Firefox. So this alternate end thing is not there anymore. Okay, this is your downloads manager. Look at all the files you have downloaded, and then from there you can go and find what you have downloaded to open it. Okay, so that's the basic stuff. Right, so I guess I'm really not going to have time to go through everything. I do want to mention one key important thing.
Media controls to move the icon. Press JAWS Professional. Temp tutorial material. Temp tutorial material. W. Blank. Camera. Search box edit. Type it. Temp tutorial material. View modes. Detail radio. Toolbar back to temp left arrow. Plus left arrow right arrow. Toolbar reason. Toolbar back to temp left arrow. View modes. Detail radio. Button check to change the selection. Press up or down arrow.
Right.
Alt left arrow. Item 2 multi-select list box. Temp tutorial material 8/1/2022 11 4. Temp tutorial material 8/1/2022 11:49 a.m. file folder 464 516. Enter. Temp tutorial material. Item 2 multi-select list box. Not selected keyboard commands from Perkins. 23 W. Windows 10 logo key shortcuts to speed. Windows 10 narrator. Windows 10 narrator. Mail.wordpress.com. Word 2010 keyboard shortcuts. .pdf 70. Word 2010 keyboard shortcuts. .txt. Word 2010 keyboard shortcuts. .xls 73 of 70.
So I want to emphasize to you, there's all this huge amount of keyboard commands. There, you don't have to memorize all of them, but you look through them to get a sense of what you can do with keyboard commands, right? If you're really that good, you can then sort of figure out already what are the really useful ones and what are the optional ones. Right? So you go back, look at recording on this one. So hopefully you can intuit, yeah, you can get a very subconscious sense of what might be important based on what I have highlighted as I go through my list just now. What important, what is not important.
Word keyboard sequences from 2003.74
Okay, so this is the one I.
Opening Microsoft Word. Opening Word. Word keyboard sequences from 2003. Compatibility mode. Word. Resume reading button to activate. Press enter. Windows.
So this is the one I really want to talk to you about. So there's this concept which I call keyboard command key sequences or keystroke sequences, right? So up to this point, I keep on talking to you about how you press this command and this thing will happen, that command and that thing will happen. But there are various tasks where you don't just press one command, you press a series of commands one after another in a particular order. So this is what I refer to as key sequences. So for example, let me check. So if I press alternate, it will go to the top here. And right now I can tap through the thing. Okay, so it says Alt HFF. Right. So now, now that I know this command, I can now press Alt H F F, right? So this is what I meant by sequence. You're pressing each key by itself separate. So after you press one command, you let go, you press the next command, you let go, and so on. But you must memorize the sequence. So if I were to press Alt H F H, right, it won't go there. If I were to press Alt F F H, it's not going to come here. Right? You know, this is a sequence to jump to this section of the ribbon, which is meant for you to adjust font types. Right, so you already saw from earlier on that there are other ways of jumping to the font adjustment option. But that's not the main point. So the main point is there are various things in the ribbon here that you can navigate to. You can navigate through the long cut method, which I also showed. Basically, alternate. Ribbon is divided into upper ribbon, lower ribbon. So when you press alternate, it will go to the upper ribbon. At the upper ribbon, you can use left and right to choose which of the upper ribbons you want. Right. Then after you have chosen the tab you want, there's some inconsistency here. Either you have to down arrow, or you can press enter, then down arrow, or enter and tab. Right. So I never really memorized what's the difference where. So in this case, fortunately, it's just down arrow. Right. So now we're at insert cover page. Then you can tap. Right, until you find the thing you want and you press enter. Then you can find the table you want. In this case, it's table. Okay, but let's undo that. Okay, so when you are not familiar with the key sequence, you can use this long cut. So alternate left and right, find the thing you want, down arrow and tap to the thing you want, press enter. Right. However, if you find that there are particular tasks which you have to do quite often, and you have to keep doing all that, like alternate left, right 5 times, down, tap 20 times, that's obviously not going to be productive to keep doing that every time you want to perform that frequent task that you perform, right? So you listen to the screen reader will tell you what keyboard commands you can press, what key sequences you're supposed to press. Like just now, I just learned Alt HFF will jump to the font size, font type adjustment option. So this is key sequence, right? So if you are going through with your visually impaired person and you find that they want to do a particular task often, and you discover that you have to go through the ribbon and about a million steps to get the task executed, you want to then highlight to the student learner, or you can help identify to the learner that those are the sequences that you can press. The screen reader, especially if this thing called JAWS, will tell you what is the sequence of keys you're supposed to press. I think the rest are also supposed to do that, but I don't dare to guarantee that. So that is how you can learn how to perform tasks in a very concise, effective method, productive manner. Okay, so that's for key sequence for existing versions of Microsoft. What I'm showing you now is Microsoft Word. You look at all the lists, there's something for Excel as well. In fact, there's something for Outlook, PowerPoint, all the rest, which are at least for all the Microsoft applications. There are sequences, even for the File Explorer, there is also sequences which you can memorize to perform various tasks. So if I know there's a need to do that, yeah, hopefully this will give you an idea of how to find out what is the key sequence for all those. But what I need to mention here now, which you can't figure out just by exploring here, is, okay, for Microsoft Office, there is a Microsoft Office, you know, basically every 3 years, they will come out with a new version of Microsoft Office. Of course, then we have Office 365, which isn't every 3 years. But anyway, the idea is there is a watershed difference between the 2003 and older versions of Microsoft Office and the 2007 and later versions, which is the 2007 onwards are using this thing what you have here, what I just talked about, the ribbon. But the older versions of Microsoft Office use this thing called a menu bar. In some sense, it's still similar to the ribbon. Their menu bar is there's this line of menus at the top, which roughly correspond with the upper ribbon, this thing where you press alternate then left and right. Okay. But once you select the menu, what comes out is a menu, right? So it's a linear list of all the options, not like your lower ribbon here where everything is a bit like two-dimensional ribbon. So the menu bar method presentation is linear list. So each menu has an option with an underline letter, just like how I mentioned the menu just now. So you can go to that menu option by pressing the underline letter. So what happens is if you're using the old 2003 and older version, is also a key sequence in that case, right? So alternate plus the underline letter, the menu, each menu, there'll be a word with a letter underline. So for example, there's edit menu, so the E will be underlined. There's a file menu, the F will be underlined. So you want to open the edit menu, you can press alternate, then E, then the edit menu will come up. So under edit, there's all kinds of things, including one option called oh, I forgot, so I won't mention that. There's a view menu. So view menu is V, so alternate plus V, alternate then V. You can also press alternate plus V as in the hold down alternate plus V thing, right? Or you can break it up, two separate commands. So view menu, there's a zoom option, and the zoom option, you can jump there by pressing Z. So then there's an old version. So therefore, the old version of Microsoft Word, for example, you can go to your zoom tool for Word by pressing Alt VZ. Then the zoom dialog box will pop up. So why should I talk about old version when we're in a new world, right? So the thing is, the keyboard sequences for performing something like a zoom tool in the new version is different from the old version. But Microsoft has recognized that there are this bunch of users who are so used to the old version, they have already memorized the sequences. So to help this group of people, they basically ported over all the key sequences from the old version to the new version. So in other words, although I am now using Office 365, Microsoft Word, I can still use, wait, let me check. Yeah, I can still use Alt V, and the view dialog box comes up. Right. So if I were to use the new version, I have totally no idea what is the sequence because I never use the old sequence. So why should we bother about O sequence? Because Alt VZ, you know that V is for view and Z is for zoom. So really Alt VZ is very easy to remember. Right? So that is why you want to remember all these O sequences in that list for the Word, and there's a list for the Excel, which I shared with you all through that, right? So there is a likelihood that some of these sequences are so easy to remember that you want to teach them to your learners, even though you're all using the newer versions of Office, presumably. Okay, one thing to note when you're using this keyboard command is when you press the keyboard commands, you can't see anything happen on the screen. So you just memorize and practically blindly press. JAWS might prompt you continue pressing the sequences from older version of Office to execute the command. So that's about the most you will get in terms of prompting you that you're doing it the old way. Okay, so that's what I want to cover.
12 p.m. Escape. Edit.
Right,
Escape.
so yeah, I'm really out of time. Just nice 12 p.m. So I guess I should stop here instead of trying to do more. Yeah, so again, I'm sort of not aiming for you all to do a lot of computer-based stuff. I will try to schedule you all to work with clients, hopefully not for computers. Or if not, I will probably schedule you for clients who already have the foundation so that you don't need to go through the pain of teaching them how to type on a keyboard. They'll probably already know something like, oh, there's such thing as keyboard commands. Then what I will probably do with you is I'll pass you the keyboard list. Yeah, or you could just refer. Probably I'll give you clients who just never knew what are the keyboard commands for doing things with PowerPoint or doing things with Zoom. And you just, all you really have to do is just go through the list of commands to them. And perhaps send a copy of the document to them for the reference. Right, so if we do it that way, then teaching our clients on computer will also be a lot easier for everyone to handle. So quite likely, if you do end up supporting our clients with computers, that's what you do. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, so I guess I will wrap up the training for today. So what's left to say now is, okay, so if you all haven't like fainted from all these things I said now, what's left is I will want to see how well you all have absorbed. Because frankly, I need volunteers who can teach our visually impaired as independently as possible. So I will want to assess all of you for how much you have been able to learn. Yeah, so ideally, I would want to be able to identify and discover at least one or two of you who manage to absorb all this and grasp the concept and actually execute the concept. So I want to do an assessment with you all. So this one not in class, not in a group. So what I propose now, after today's session, you all go look through the stuff, try them out. And when you think you're ready, you let me know, probably through Deborah, Vishnu, the team, however however avenues you're provided with to try and get to me. And I will schedule a Zoom session with you. And then I'll set you tasks to perform. So if you feel that you're ready to support iPhone, you want to try, you don't want to try the rest, okay, fine. I will test you for iPhone, performing tasks on iPhone with VoiceOver. And then if I find that you can do it, good, then you're going to be a valuable asset to me. If not, it's not the end of the world. It might be half the end of the world for me. Just that when 22nd of January comes, I'll probably need to do a lot of more detailed guiding when you're supporting our clients. Okay, so once again, repeat the main point. Go through what I have covered today. Try to understand and learn how to use all these things on your own. And when you think you're ready to be tested, get in touch with me. I'll do a Zoom session with you. Hopefully it's just half an hour. I'll ask you to perform certain tasks for me to either watch or listen. And that will let me have some idea of how good you are doing it. Right? In case you think you can play cheat, there is something I will ask you to do which will shock you, and then you are going to have to do it as good as if you are totally blind. So before you come to me, get to the point where you're confident doing things with your eyes closed. Actually close your eyes and you do all these things. And then get in touch with me. Okay. Yep. So that's all I have to say for now. Vishnu wants to close off?
Yeah, thanks, Quackbin. Maybe I'll just get a photo and then we can wrap up the session.
Okay.
And so Quackbin, I get you to stop sharing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Title is Word Useful Keyboard Sequences from 2003. Cache compatibility mode. Alt F4. Temp tutorial material items. New multi-select. Stop video left arrow plus the right arrow button. Alt S.
Can I get
Connection? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, you were saying you were asking your volunteers to turn on camera.
Yeah, I was just getting them to turn on their camera so that we can take a quick picture. Okay, can maybe Jerome or Shakran, maybe one of you can help us just take. Okay, can. That's that for the photo taking lah. So if any of you feel that you're confident and then want to reach out, then please just let us know on the. You can let us know on the group lah.
I would actually say that if you all are interested, you can come back for a repeat session and you feel the need, because then you probably will already have questions which can help throw up in the middle of what I'm saying. It might help enrich the whole experience for everybody else. So any of you are free enough and into enough that you come up with questions and you want to ask at next session instead of getting access over this next 1 week, feel free to do that. Right? We help everyone grow that way. So my aim is, as soon as any of you are ready, get in touch with me. I do hope to be able to at least get someone to assess over the next, or be approached by someone for assessment over the next 1 week. Yeah. So yeah, don't wait until 1 day before 22nd of January. Okay, so if you are not confident, fine, then you just try some more until you're confident, then you come back to me. It can be after next week. And if by the 22nd, I really haven't discovered anybody, that's fine. We'll just try it out and see how things go.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Quackbin. I think we can end the session now.
Okay.
Hi, sorry to cut in actually. Thank you so much, Quackbin, for the session. I just want to ask whether it's okay just to very quickly ask if like anyone has any questions at this point. Yeah, like quick questions. Yeah, okay. If not, maybe I have a quick question. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. So actually earlier you mentioned like you shared about the things that SAVH is doing, right? So I was just wondering actually if we may be involved in, for example, like the braille or the audio, like the audio recordings and so on, if we're interested, like, or any of the other programs, like, yeah,
we're open to that possibility. Okay, I guess I forgot some admin kind of work to handle. We will need all of you to register as a volunteer. I will send you all a link to register. And I will, or the other way is I can send you a soft copy of a volunteer registration form. You fill it and you send back to me. That way, then I can forward to my colleague in charge of volunteer management, so that she knows that you all came through me. And in this volunteer registration, you can also indicate what other areas you're interested to help with. If you specifically want to help in other areas, as opposed to this one, that's also fine as well. Just go ahead and state down, and we'll try and match when vacancies are available. right? So, because of COVID, everything is a bit hard to match right now. So, but we're happy to hear if it's anything you want to help with, and we'll just try and match up. Okay, anything else?
Okay, thank you so much for that. Yeah, thank you. We'll help to disseminate that to the rest of the volunteers as well. Thank you.
Oh yeah, then I guess since we're talking about that, yeah, I do actually have another way of using volunteers is it could basically be beyond IT related issues. So if you are interested, you can also talk to me about that. I don't think I'll publicize too much on that because if I'm not wrong, my instruction right now is for your group to focus on just this IT training part. But if you all do feel that maybe there's somewhere else that you prefer to volunteer with, you can get in touch with me and I'll talk to you all separately for that. Okay. Right. Anyone else has anything to say or close off?
Yeah, I think that's about it from us. Thank you so much, Craig Ben.
Okay, can. So I'll see the rest of your main team next week again, I guess.
Yeah.
Are y'all still coming back next week?
I think it's a different group next week.
Oh, the main team is different?
No, I mean Deborah will be coming for next week.
Okay, but the other three of you may not coming next week.
Might not be.
Okay,
we'll see how. Yeah.
Okay, see y'all.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye bye.
Again, bye.